just do that for whatever reason, but you know. I think everybody just heard me say that on the stream too. Hey everybody, hit that like button. We're talking about the fun things that Max's country did while we get ready. We have to turn up our preamps. That's one thing when it comes to recording music. Good evening, everybody. I'm going to try this again. The Canadians were just having a nice chat here. That's what happened, right? Could Noah's Ark have worked on modern day debate? Evidence of God. You got 10 minutes on the floor.
Hello, thanks for having me. Appreciate it. Thanks to Max for jumping in. Could the ark work? The short answer is yes, because it did. And the best evidence to support that the ark worked is the evidence that supports the global flood, in line with the biblical narrative. As the overwhelming evidence piled up for the global flood roughly 6,000 years ago, it's extremely strange to see secular science steal evidence and force fit it into a strange idea of shapeshifters in billions of years, all based on unfalsifiable pseudoscientific methods known as radiometric dating. The arc has been tested and calculated in academic settings. Every time, the conclusion is that it works. The ship floats and the animals fit. How did Noah build the ark? Though we know he built the ark out of wood, we don't know exactly which gopher wood is. Considering the atmosphere would have been historically different and the trees that survived were all wiped out, thus we don't know exactly what gopher wood would be if it were more productive for a ship. However, we don't know exactly what building techniques, materials, and technologies Noah had access to. The Bible and the book of Enoch allude to the fact that the angels came down to earth to live among humanity, teaching all manner of techniques, including metal and stoneworking. So, if these scriptures are accurate, he likely had access to metals, tools, and technologies available to him. This biblical narrative also appears represented in Egyptian and Roman historical gods. The idea This idea is proven by the Egyptian pyramids. Any rational person that examines the evidence left by the Egyptians must conclude that technology was available to these ancient people, likely lost after the Tower of Babel changed the course of history. Hundreds of transport truck-sized stones weighing up to 170,000 pounds each were cut, lifted, transported hundreds of miles, raised 300 feet in the air, and laid with exact precision in accordance with the building's blueprints. Only advanced technologies can account for this phenomenon if you're a rational skeptic. The fact that Egyptologists deny the laws of physics as to not address these issues and claim that the pyramids were tombs despite the lack of evidence to suggest it shows that there is an agenda among academia science to indoctrinate rather than search for truth. So we don't know exactly how Noah built the ark, but we do know there were likely technologies available to him, like ventilation systems, draining and cleaning systems, feeding systems, growing system. These are all potential explanations for some of the most common objections based on the assumption that in Noah's era, he consisted of only stones, hammers, and chisels. Calculating dimensions and onboard weight of the biblical ark narrative, physics graduate students concluded in their peer-reviewed paper that the ark story is in fact viable. Quote, you think that the Bible as a scientific you don't think of the Bible as a scientifically accurate source of information, so we were quite surprised to discover it works, said one of the members on the team. The word ark refers to a container or box, differing from the word used for ship throughout the Bible. The ark likely had a removable top, as its name suggests. After the heavy rain subsided, the top deck was likely used to grow food, to continue to sustain Noah and the animals. In the physics study of the ark, using an estimated 35,000 animals on board, they calculated that the weight of the weight on the ship could have been doubled and it still would have remained afloat. We don't know today exactly which animals, versions of kinds were brought on board the ark, but they were likely hybrids of each kind, which explains the diversity that we observe among the kinds today, as well as animals' instincts to not seek out close relatives when breeding. And the diversity observed today would make a lot more sense if the clean and unclean animals were breeding. Mesopotamia cuneiform refers to a hybrid equine, which is a horse kind, called the kunga, which was favored among those who could afford them. It's probable these hybrid animals were the kinds in Noah's day, on which explains all the diversity that we see today. The animals, along with Noah, according to the biblical narrative, were all herbivores. It was believed that carnivores could not survive without a diet of meat. Until 1940, a lion was born named Little Tyke. By choice, she refused to eat meat, and instead she was a vegetarian. And she lived a healthy, productive lifestyle, changing everything that we understood about carnivores and giving us a beautiful glimpse into the original intended nature of the fiercest carnivores in existence. God told Noah to bring all manner of food, aside from what they required to eat for the 40 plus days prior to opening the top to grow. Noah would have brought an abundance of seeds, 7 kinds of every fowl, which the Bible states with the purpose of keeping seed alive upon the earth, which is a great observation considering a bird's digestive system has the ability to transport plants. Genesis says, everything with the breath of life on dry land died. The ark took in creatures with blood and those that could not survive in the water, which eliminates many creatures like bugs and reptiles. It's most important to note there most definitely would have been enormous floating land masses as well as underground ecosystems like the one we discovered in China in 2022, 600 feet under the ground. This is an easy, viable explanation as to how many creatures would have survived the flood that God did not bring to Noah. God brought animals to Noah. Thinking of adult animals poses many unnecessary problems. It's most rational that babies and eggs were delivered to Noah, especially for the largest creatures. Pangea is the earth when it was one landmass. The Bible describes the fountains of the deep bursting forward, which greatly contributed to the flood on the earth, as well as retracting the excess water. A technique known as water jet cutting is the most powerful cutting tool on Earth, and it's the choice cutting tool due to the zero heat that is generated. The fountains of the deep burst forth with such immense pressure. This is likely how continents were cut from the biblical perspective. After the ark landed, the continents on wet, muddy plates continued to drift apart, like they do today at slow rates, varying speeds through the course of history. Continents are only several thousand miles apart, so over the time frame since the flood, this could have been achieved with mere miles per year, speeds that would not be felt, yet would be observed in one's lifetime. Roughly 100 years after the flood, the offspring of Noah's son Shem, a son was born named Peleg. Genesis 10:25 says, he was named this because in his day the earth was divided. His name means earthquakes. So this is an easy explanation of the dispersing of animals in accordance with their kinds across the globe and over the seas, as they expanded across the land in search of food, climates, and to escape predators without invoking shape-shifting monkey rafts. So, where did the water go? The water retracted into the earth, according to the Bible, the water going down like a drain until the holes were plugged. In 1960, the deepest hole in history was dug, called the Kola Super Deep Borehole. At 7 miles down, they discovered water to their surprise, as well as single celled fossils. This not only supports the idea that the water returned into the earth, but it helps us understand the geological column through the hydrological sorting theory. As the water was being sucked back into the earth, it's organizing creatures by density: single cells, boneless, boned, spined, brained, and limbed, all affecting their densities. Every one of these components attributed to the buoyancy, helping to sort them the way we observe them today in the geological columns, which is why it appears to evolutionists that these creatures were laid by era, as they are all in the order in accordance with their anatomies. However, the easiest way to debunk the evolutionary theory is through living fossils. We constantly find, through billions of years of creatures from wrong eras surviving, would display a mess in the geological column regarding evolution, but not when considering the sorting by anatomy due to similar densities and buoyancies. And the ocean creatures that survived would have got far away from these suctions. It's also important to note fossil fuel reserves and limestones require marine life to form. We find these in abundance on every landmass, almost every piece of land across the earth, thus proving the earth was absolutely submerged in water. The molten blob is also an example of a large continent-sized masses underground constantly moving as they can track it with sonar. This is likely pressurized water. So we have the evidence to conclude the biblical ark could float. Ancient technologies we don't fully understand did exist. Hybrid versions of the kinds did exist in early years following the flood, explaining diversity without requiring every known species on the ark. How all kinds survived, even those on the ark, how plants were to be preserved and dispersed, how the animals all fit,
10
how the food
seconds.
was sustained, how animals reached all the earth, and why the geological column supports the flood, as well as where the water came from and went. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Evidence of God, for your introductory statement. I want to remind everybody to smash that like button. We are Modern Day Debate, a neutral platform hosting debates on science, politics, and religion. We hope you feel welcome here at the channel, and we are going to do super chats at the end, so get your super chats in if you want to ask a question to one of our speakers. And with that, Max, you have 10 minutes on the floor.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Modern Day Debate and Evidence of God. A lot of things were said. I don't have an opening statement because I am subbing in, but let me put a framework to what I think. I just read the story just a few minutes ago, and a lot of the things that were mentioned during his opening statements are pure conjecture. I would like to see some evidence for those things, and we can get into that in the open discussion. But the story as portrayed in the Bible is absolutely impossible. The story as portrayed in the Bible, it's a myth, just like many of the other flood myths that are ubiquitous all over the world. There's flood myths in Mesoamerica, and the stories are widely different. They differ in time with thousands of years, and it's literally physically impossible for the whole world to flood all at once. It would create some problems that I will try to outline. So, if the whole world became flooded, given that most of the water in the world is salty, you would have salted water, even though in less concentration than the current sea has. You would have salted water all over the earth. And that would basically mean that nothing would ever grow again. In ancient times, when an army invaded the land of another army or invaded a city, they used to salt the earth so that nothing would grow. So that is a very big complication because it would basically mean that the whole earth would become arid. Now, you also mentioned that during the flood was the moment that the continents drifted apart, that up until then we had Pangea. And the problem with that is that generates what is called the heat problem. You cannot have the continents drifting into their current position over that short span of time. The heat that would generate would be immense, and that would basically evaporate all of the water from all of the planet pretty much instantly, because it's a lot of energy to move, and that would generate heat. So that would mean that basically every water, fresh and salty, would just evaporate into the atmosphere. The story talks about the waters in the deep, and that is one thing that I can confirm that it is true. I've seen the evidence that there's a lot of places in the world that there's sort of subterranean oceans with a lot of water. But if you push that water up, you would have an empty space. So the mass would just make everything collapse down. So you can't have that either. And then it talks about the waters above. And unless you absolutely deny space, we know that there is no water above. Above you have the atmosphere, and then you have space. So there is nothing above that can open so that new water can come flooding. We read today that the flood happened pretty much instantaneously, that everything flooded. And then it took 3 months for the water to recede. So we had 40 days of rain, 150 days of everything being flooded. And then it took 3 months for the water to recede. That is like a really weird timeline. Now, in regards to the animals, not only we have the problem of an ancient shipbuilder that built a ship by himself in a week, built a massive ship that would have to be comparable to the biggest ships that we can build today out of modern materials like steel. And for example, a cruise ship cannot stay in the open ocean for 150 days. They would run out of supplies. And that's why cruise ships hop from port to port so that they can resupply, because the amount of mass of matter that you need for people to eat, and in the case of a cruise ship, and if we compare that to animals, it's even bigger, and a bigger amount of mass that you would need for those animals to eat, and also the water that you would need for those animals to drink. It is physically impossible to have a ship that big floating for 150 days with the supplies on board included. And then we have what I affectionately like to call the poop problem. If you have that big amount, and I'm being conservative, and I'm taking this idea of that we had the let's say a proto-bear kind that then evolved. So you not only believe in evolution, you believe in hyper-evolution, which is a weird idea in and of itself, and we might get into that discussion during the open discussion. So even if I grant you a conservative amount of animals on the ark, the amount of poop those animals would generate would be immense. And we have to remember that there were only 8 people aboard the ark. Noah, who was 600 years old, funny enough, no one has ever been shown to live 600 years old, so we'll see how you can explain that. And then we had Noah, his wife, Noah's 3 sons, and their 3 wives. And those are the 8 people that repopulated the earth. We know from actual history, for example, the Habsburg jaw, that when you get that kind of inbreeding, because the 3 couples of Noah's sons would have kids, and those kids would have to breed among themselves. So they would be cousins. And in just a few short generations, you would start to get the genetic problems that come from inbreeding. So unless you want to say magical intervention, God intervened and prevented those genetical problems, I don't know how you could explain that. But yeah, it's a weird story. It's a mythological story. It's not true. It doesn't have to be true. And when you say that maybe it was a local flood, maybe it was just a small flood and it was a small ship that they only took the animals that they had around them because, I mean, how did the animals from Australia go? I mean, you think that it was Pangea. So, okay, sure. Let's say it was Pangea. Then now after the continents drifted, how did the animals get from the Middle East to Australia? How did the kangaroos cross the ocean? That's also another problem. So the story of the ark has some value. I don't agree, because if you want my interpretation, God made a mistake, so he would no longer be omnipotent and had to do basically have a do-over. And that takes away from the idea of this omnipotent God. So unless you take it literally and add magic to it, I don't know how you can explain any of these things. You made also a couple of claims about fossils and how fossils somehow prove your position. I would love to see a citation for that, because I think it's the other way around. Actually, the fossil record strongly suggests that the flood didn't happen. The flood as portrayed on the Bible, floods, as we all know, do happen, but not like this. And they leave a very specific mark, a geological mark. And I've heard people, geologists like PhD Tony, talk a little bit about this. And there's plenty of videos that go deep into the evidence for the geological evidence for floods, what is left, and so on. So yeah, I don't think I have anything else to say for my opening statement. I would love to go into the open discussion, but yeah, that's a sort of the gist of my ideas on the flood. And again, thank you everyone for being here.
All right. Well, thank you for being here, Max. Appreciate you jumping in here for the other speaker. But we won't go down that lane. We want to remind everybody, if you haven't already, smack that like button around. It helps boost this up in the algorithm. We are live right now on Modern Day Debate. So if you're watching this on podcast forum, which all these debates are going to be uploaded within 24 hours to our podcast forum, and you're wondering, hey, I didn't get a chance to ask one of my speakers, my favorite speakers, or my least favorite speakers, a question, and I'd love to. Make sure you subscribe to the Modern Day Debate YouTube channel so that you catch these live. And lastly, I am going to pin one of our moderators has been going through some tough times, so I'm going to tag Anathema's GoFundMe in the chat. So if you have any means to help out, that will be the end there. So we're going to go into open discussion and take it away, Evidence of God, to respond to some of what you just heard.
Perfect. All right. Thank you for that. I just wanted to say, he started off by saying that everything I said was pure conjecture. Secular science, I could say the same thing about that. Everything secular science attributes to their findings is all conjecture, and they're constantly changing things to suit their narrative. So when you're dealing with these kind of topics, you're going to have to some degree, have some speculation, but it's evidence that confirms the speculation. And I think that the evidence that I backed up what I said with is far better than rafting monkeys. But anyway, so the one part you addressed, you said that there's no geological evidence for the flood, and you want a citation. So 3 billion, yeah. So 3 billion years ago, the Earth was flooded worldwide, right? And they know this. You can go to science.org. There's an article, and the head scientist there said, I quote, "There's plenty of geological evidence to support a global flood." The issue is they don't want to do it 6,000 years ago. They want to do it 3 billion years ago. There's water minerals that make up 7% of Earth's mass. They found water in them, according to that article. So there is, in fact, a ton of geological evidence to support a flood, just not one. They just don't want to tie it to the time frame of the Bible.
Well, I mean, hold on. Let's address that.
Go ahead.
Because yes, I do know about that. The name right now is escaping me. But yeah, I do know about that one. But what you're doing right there is a reification fallacy. Just because you found one evidence, and let me remind you that that piece of evidence specifically says 3 billion years ago, there were no humans there. So you're basically reifying something that you found to suit your narrative, something that you currently said that you disagree with science. I mean, science actually changing their minds is what science does. So that is actually science. But you saying that this flood that happened, that scientists agree that happened 3 billion years ago, is somehow Noah's flood, that it's a classical reification fallacy. That doesn't point towards what you're saying.
No, all I'm doing is simply pointing out that the evidence does support that the Earth was underwater. If you want to discuss how they came up with the number of 3 billion, it's really irrelevant because the evidence suggests that the Earth was globally underwater. It is. If the Earth was completely submerged in water, according to science, you don't think that supports. What if Noah's flood was 3 billion years ago? What if that was the story? Then you'd agree with it.
Then the Bible is
exactly
wrong.
Right. No, then you'd agree with it, right? So it's not about the Earth being flooded you have a problem with. It's about the time frame that you have a problem with. So then you got to ask yourself, how do they come up with these time frames? And as far as the geological column, I don't think you kind of followed what I was saying there. According to, and I don't think science is wrong. I just want to clear that up. I think secular science is something different.
It's science is secular.
No, secular science is a new phenomenon. It's kind of like the Egyptologists, the Egyptologists that come along because they don't want to explain how the pyramids were built. So they say they were a bunch of Egyptians with hammers and chisels, which is absolutely impossible for that to have been done. No one's lifting 170,000 pound beams 350 feet in the air with some pulleys of rope. It's not going to happen. So that the Egyptologists alone shows that there's some sort of narrative in academia. They don't want to admit what they don't know, and that's what secular science is to me. Back to back to where were we? I got a little off topic there.
Yeah, I mean, let me address.
You addressed
the fact that we don't know exactly how they did it. But now when you went in your opening about the Egyptian pyramids, you were talking about some forgotten history or some forgotten technology. Is there any evidence for that? Or again, this is just conjecture. You have no evidence for your claims when it comes to these things. And you're just making stuff up, basically.
No, do you have evidence how people with hammers and chisels can lift a 170,000 pound beam, hundreds of them, transport them hundreds of miles after cutting and lifting, and then raise them to 350 feet in the air? Can you demonstrate that with hammers and chisels? Because neither can anyone in secular science. Right, so that is the evidence.
Say science, because
I don't
agree with secular science. Like, science is secular. Science doesn't care about like religion itself. So there are scientists that are religious, but a lot of them would say that when you're going to do science, your religion stays at the door of the lab. So I mean, it's redundant to say secular science. I don't particularly have knowledge about what the consensus is on how they built the pyramids, but pyramids are not only found in Egypt, they're also found in America. And there's also other types of buildings that seem at first glance that they wouldn't have, but they evidently did it somehow. What we have to do is just figure out. I'm just not knowledgeable in that particular area. So I don't know. I honestly don't know. But let's bring it back to the flood. So you talked about the angels that came down. So those angels that came down, they weren't there to help Noah. According to my understanding, those angels that came down were mingled with humans and produced what was called the Nephilim. That was one of the reasons for the flood. So again, you just made something up that the angels were there to help Noah, when in actuality, the story, if you go a little bit further back, they talk about the Nephilim and God wanting to basically eradicate that abomination and the evil people. So do you want to change what you said on that? Or?
No, I'll explain it. I didn't say that they helped Noah. So according to the book of Enoch, the angels came down and they taught men all manner of evil, it's called, right? Which is the reason they ended up flooding, because they advanced humanity too fast in the knowledge that they taught them, right? And this is exactly like, how did they build a ship that size? How did they transport it? How did they make the pyramids? These are technologies, and that's what the Book of Enoch says, that they taught them these things,
Right,
right?
but the Book of Enoch is not the Bible.
That doesn't matter. It's scripture. That the Book of Enoch is quoted
No,
by Jude.
no,
It's
no, no.
quoted by Jude in the
Wait,
Bible,
hold
verbatim.
on. Yes.
Yeah.
But if you're going to reference that, then I can reference other kinds of scripture, like the Gospel of Peter, that when they went to check on Jesus' tomb, a giant talking cross came on. So now you open the door for like other kinds of scripture. I don't think you want to do that.
Well, you have to show me in the Bible other disciples quoting that book, right? Quoting the words of Peter. If Jude verbatimly quotes the words of Enoch, Enoch 1:9, and it's Jude 9:11, I think. It's quoting the Book of Enoch verbatim. The Book of Enoch is referred to throughout the Bible. They had a Book of Enoch. So the question is, if the Book of Enoch that we have today is not the Book of Enoch then where is it? It's the only book we have, and it's a book that's quoted constantly. So we can forget about the fallen angels. The point is in the Book of Enoch, it references the Bible, that the angels came down, and then the Book of Enoch, which is quoted verbatim in the Gospels, refers to that they taught humanity. And then we find technology, right? So you have to kind of sort this all out. How did they get the technology? Well, the scripture, the Book of Enoch, that's referenced by the Bible, says that they were taught it by the fallen angels. If you look at Greek mythology, Egyptian, the Sumerians, they all have these stories about these man gods, right? This is exactly what the Book of Enoch is alluding to, is these gods. So these stories are not just in the Bible.
Right,
because now you open the door. So now you accept Zeus, you accept Thor, you accept Jupiter and Quetzalcoatl. So all of those mythologies are true.
I accept them in the sense that they believed that these fallen angels were those guys. Yeah,
No, that's another.
Before we get too off track here,
that's another reification fallacy. I'm sorry.
So my understanding is the tie-in for this conversation was about the technology.
Yes.
Said there. So Evidence of God, if you want to talk about, there's the Canadian coming out. If you want to talk about how the technology ties into the argument there, or the argument from Scripture there, I'll give you the floor to bring us back into the Noah's flood debate there. So
yeah. Sure.
Go ahead.
So yeah, it does kind of go off track when you're talking about this, but the point I'm trying to make is that in order for Noah to have built the ark, to get rid of, like you said, the animal feces, right? Things like ventilation systems, cleaning systems, all these different things that Noah could have had on the ark had he had the technology. And when you look at these advanced civilizations that had this technology that we can't explain, and then they somehow just disappeared, it shows that there's ancient technologies in history dated back to the era that the flood was supposedly said to happen. So that's my point. It's not about the angels or anything else. I'm saying that there's technology that exists. We can't explain it, and the Bible references it, so there's no reason to not connect technologies to Noah. That's my whole point.
But again, this is the Bible doesn't say anything about that, about like the technology specifically. The story doesn't say how Noah built the ship, and he says that he built a ship in a week, when today a shipbuilding operation with hundreds of employees cannot build a cruise ship in a week. And then we have, for example, I have a note here. Hold on. The HMS Mercy in 1856 was 336 feet long. It was a wooden ship. And the problem is, with that long of a ship, with the current, it twisted, and it twisted so much that it created gaps in between the planks of wood. Even though they're covered with tar or some other very oily material so that water doesn't rush in, but the ship twisted so much that it put water in, so it had to be manually pumped outside so that the ship wouldn't sink. I would imagine that a ship like this, and it doesn't even say the measures, and you didn't give an idea of the measures, but such a long ship would certainly, with primitive kind of building, it would either twist so much that it would take water in and would sink, or it just wouldn't float. And again, we have the problem of mass with the animals. We have the problem of mass with the food. And you somehow said that they grew. I don't remember reading anything about them growing plants on there. And then also the food problem, the mass of the animals, and the mass or the poop problem, I love to call it.
Yeah. So the ark, so that ship, for instance, right? So the ark was described, the word used for ark in the Bible means container, box. It's not the same that's in, say, Jonah, right? It's a different word. So the ark was some sort of a container or box. The way he built it was specific to that, right? That's why I say that it probably retracted after the rain subsided and he could grow on the top floor. It doesn't, he brought all the seeds, he brought all the food. It doesn't have to say that he grew food. Why wouldn't he grow food? Right? The Bible doesn't need to be, we're looking at evidence. The Bible doesn't need to be specific in every aspect, right? Just because the Bible, it's not in the Bible doesn't mean that it didn't happen, right? It just means it wasn't necessary for Moses to write that portion down. They believed in the ark. They didn't need to know how he ate, right? They didn't need to know these details that we come to today. But the fact is he had to eat. So how did he eat? Probably used the animal feces in the top deck with the retractable ceiling of the chest, the box retracts, because that's what box do, right? Lids come off, right? So if the ark was called a box, it had a retractable top. And again, you're assuming that he was a primitive man in a primitive era, but you still haven't explained how technologies like the pyramids were built in his era. Once you can explain those technologies away, then we can call Noah a primitive man. Okay, he could have had metal integrity on the boat. We don't know what he had. And furthermore, he could have contracted it out. Nobody says that Noah had to build the boat by himself. He ran the boat. He did oversee the building of the boat.
Hold on. You're going like you're ranting a little bit.
Let's give Max a chance to respond to some of this.
It's a lot of conjecture. The Bible, I understand that the word might mean that it had an open top, but I saw a video of people trying to actually build something like that, and it didn't float. It didn't float. And so, and it was empty. Now, if you start adding animals, but all I see you have is pure conjecture. Oh, they could have done this. They couldn't have done that. You have no evidence for that. Nothing whatsoever. Unless you tell me they found, but every time they claim that the ark has been found has been either faked or something else. So I don't know where you're getting all of this stuff. And please stop talking about the pyramids. The pyramids actually works against you, because I don't know if you know this, but the consensus on science is that by the time that the pyramids was built, the Sphinx was an old thing. So I don't know how you can sort these things out. The Egyptians kind of work against your own claim that this happened 6,000 years ago.
No, but we can track the Egyptian writings back to these dates, right? What we can't do is believe what rocks tell us, right? There's a lot of issues with radiometric dating, so that's like conjecture. What? You want to talk about conjecture? Like, we can't prove it.
Yes, we can.
Can you prove radiometric dating? No, you can't. Yes. Show me. You can't falsify it because it can't be observed. It can't be tested. We can't actually observe that it works. It's all conjecture.
Yes.
This one works with that one. It's a measuring tool. Yeah. It's just not a dating tool. It's accurate to measure. It's just you're making assumptions of what the past was. You have to make all these assumptions and in your own conclusions. Therefore, it can't be falsified. If we can't go back in time to figure out if it works, or even observe something anonymously,
that is not the falsification criteria. There is no reason to believe that the radioatomic decay had any reason to change. So, I mean, if you have any evidence that radiometric dating doesn't work, you should go to Switzerland and claim your Nobel Prize.
Yeah, so I'm going to get it right now. If you Google carbon dating won't work in 10 years, they're going to tell you that because of man-made emissions, that in 10 years from now, carbon dating will no longer be useful. We won't be able to track it. So my Nobel Prize can show up now because I just proved that the atmosphere does change. They want to say that it was man-made contributed. Well, it doesn't matter. We don't know what happened in the past. So if we can change it in the future, why would we think that it couldn't change in the past? Right?
Okay. Hold on, because this is a very specific thing. And this goes to how, and you're very lucky, I'm very lucky that I actually studied this a few days ago. This goes specifically to how carbon-14, and this only addresses carbon-14, the shorthand of which is charged ions in the atmosphere hit nitrogen, they turn into carbon-14, then that carbon-14 goes to the ground, it gets absorbed by plants, plants absorb it into them. When you eat plants, you absorb carbon-14 onto you. So what humans have done is make the atmosphere thicker with carbon emissions, which the Egyptians didn't have. They didn't put out the same amount of carbon into the atmosphere as we do today. So you can say that this thing that we made because of heavy industry and heavy emissions would somehow happen in the past.
That's
but that's
conjecture.
neither here nor there. Again, you cited something. If you would show if that's the past peer review, and again, this only applies for carbon-14. There's other types of radiometric dating. Carbon-14 is good up to 50,000 years. That's not how we rate fossils, for example, which is one of the other things that you brought up, and somehow said that fossils support your position when all of paleontology would absolutely deny that they are 6,000 years old.
Okay, so the oxygen, historically, the atmosphere was 35% oxygen with much less nitrogen at one point in history. They date it to billions of years, but that's really irrelevant. As Christians, we believe that it was prior to the flood. This was the atmosphere. So right there, you just admitted that nitrogen is going to affect these radioactive decays, right? You just said that it pumps nitrogen in the air. Secondly,
hold on. Oh, not this radioactive, only carbon-14, because that is how carbon-14 specifically is produced. If you talk about other radiometric datings, I don't know exactly how they work. I specifically looked into carbon-14, not all of radiometric dating. There is a whole bunch of them.
Yeah, carbon-14 is, you can only date things that are older than 100 years old. So technically, we could be proving this constantly. And not secular, but as science says that that radiometric dating, carbon dating is accurate, the burden of proof is on them to display this. We should have this in schools. If you look up right now labs to get them carbon dated, you can't send an anonymous sample. You can't. No, you can't. I've looked it up. You can't. Show me the lab, and I'm going to do it myself. That's why I looked it up. And every one of the sites that I went on, it says no anonymous samples, no use for commercial. They have all these rules for something that supposedly solved every equation in science, but yet they won't let us falsify it. That's the problem with radiometric dating. They don't want it to be wrong because it destroys everything they believe. Just like when Mary Schweitzer found the soft tissue. What did she say? Please don't let this be me. That's what she said, because she knew right away that couldn't be possible. But they never once questioned the dates, right? They don't question dates.
Hold on, just before you carry on, I do just real quick, if you can hold on to that, Max.
Yeah.
Very quick, just to remind our audience how this is all tying into our initial title. I know we're taking a full circle here, but just to give you the floor, yes. I'll give you 15 seconds, Evidence of God, to just tie it back in to what we're talking about here, which is the Noah's Ark, and then Max, you can respond.
Sure.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, so the whole point of showing that the radiometric dating is not a viable scientific method is that that's the only thing that people can latch onto to say the Bible's wrong. Every time I have these discussions, it's always, the Ark's impossible because it's this old. And just like the Earth was flooded, but it was 3 billion years ago. We know that everything was underwater, but it was 3 billion years ago, right? That's the whole point to disproving radiometric dating, and it's unfalsifiable. It's not a viable.
It's not unfalsifiable. It's absolutely confirmed, and it's been through peer review process over and over. People use it to date stuff that we have other ways of dating. So we have various avenues of through historical evidence. It has been clay has been dated, so we know it works. We don't just rely on that. And again, if anyone could debunk this, they would have gotten a Nobel Prize, and we would have figured out a way to do it some other way. But again, all I'm seeing is conjecture. When you talk about Mary Schweitzer, this is a typical fundamentalist lie about what she found. I'm not really, I don't have the specifics of the top of my head, but I've seen a couple of videos in the past that it's also something that fundamentalists say to try and make the flood somehow real. Jumping to that 3 million year old or 3 billion year old flood is not going to help your case, because we know that humans weren't around that back then. So so far all I'm seeing is conjecture, and I thought, and you were very insistent on that you had evidence. I'm still to see any evidence, to be honest, perfectly honest.
Okay, sure. How about this one then? The oldest tree on Earth. Okay, according to evolutionary theory, according to science, trees they don't die. There's no reason to think trees would die if they were in the right environment. They keep stem cells on hand so that they can repair parts of the tree that's damaged. If evolution theory, or if the flood didn't happen or the Earth was billion years old, we should find forests of trees that are millions, billions of years old. Instead, the oldest tree is dated to the flood. It's 4,900 years old. Ironically, it's named Methuselah, which was the great grandfather of Noah, which his name means his death will bring. He died and the flood came. But that's the oldest tree on Earth is Methuselah. She's 4,900 years old, right at the date of the flood, right? So you have to explain to me how, from an evolutionary theory standpoint, the oldest tree on Earth of an organism that doesn't die, that should be billions of years old potentially, and we can't even find one, right?
Okay.
And this is ring dating. This isn't radiometric dating.
Yeah.
This is a viable tool, right? But then they radiometric dated a tree and they went, oh, well, that one's 12,000, which still doesn't help them. But that's what I'm saying. They don't do the ring date and the radiometric dating. They just do the radiometric dating. Right?
Let's do one thing at a time, because yes, you brought up this tree and the idea that trees can keep going. Yes, but there's natural disasters. There's floods, there's droughts, there's fires, there's thunderstorms that kill the trees. Then we also go and cut them down. So yes, hypothetically, trees could live a very long time, but the environment changes. So there's no reason to think that we should have everywhere on Earth billions of years old trees.
We should have at least one. We should have at least one. The Earth is a very big place because that's what you said, a flood. You're right. External factors are the only thing they can conclude kills trees. Absolutely, you're right. And the fact that we don't find even one tree older than the flood on the entire Earth tells us that there was a global event, not just a local.
No,
or yes, it absolutely does. Then you have to show me a tree that's older than the flood. If you're going to say that the one organism that will live hundreds of millions of years potentially, and we only have one example of a tree dated to the year of the flood. That's the oldest that we have is dated to the flood. You have to show me a tree that's older than that. That's your problem.
Because I'm not specifically knowledgeable. Oh, you just made a conjecture and the burden of proof is on me. That's not how
it is on
works.
you. You're the one making the claim that older trees wouldn't be around, despite the fact that we know they should be around because the Earth is big. They were all over the Earth.
Because I was going to challenge the fact that a tree could live millions of years, because I'm not sure if that's possible. I don't really know, and I'm comfortable saying I don't know if a tree could survive even 1 million years. But the problem is that the weather on Earth is not constant. So, and the Earth has gone through many changes. As we said, droughts, floods, thunderstorms, wildfires. There's a bunch of things that would cause a tree to die. And then with the proliferation of humans, you have us cutting down the trees. So, I mean, I don't know. You made the claim that trees can live a million years old. Do you have a citation for that? Am I supposed to just believe you?
Well, see, I didn't bring a citation because I thought that people would understand that a tree is an organism that doesn't die. You can go look it up after the debate and realize that I'm absolutely right, no problem. But tree is a one organism that does not die. They have no reason to think it would die if it were kept in the right circumstances. As far as different atmospheres and stuff, trees have survived everything else through the ages, right? Big forests have survived all this time. You're insinuating that something globally wiped out all the trees, and then when I say, well, the Bible
No,
says, yeah, you are. That's what you
no,
said.
no,
There's
no,
not
no.
one example.
No, hold on. You're putting words in my mouth.
Well, give me
I
an example
didn't
then.
say, no, I didn't
Burden of
say
proof.
that. Hold on. I didn't say that something wiped out all the trees. Uh, Trees get wiped out separately. What could wipe out a forest where I live doesn't have to be the same thing that wiped out a forest where you are. It doesn't have to be the same thing. And you did this very same thing, saying that it's a global event to trying to suit your narrative when it came to the flood myths all over the world. But those differ for like a take the oldest one, the nearest one to the Bible, the flood in the Epic of Gilgamesh, the flood of Upnapishtim. That is 1,000 years before the Bible. 1,000. It's not that they're not talking about the same event. They're not talking about the same event. You're just connecting stuff that is not connected.
If they all spawned from Noah, then they are talking about the same event. They just have details incorrect. And if you look at the Tower of Babel story, listen, if you look at the Tower of Babel story, it talks about a place called Akkad, Akkadians, what is it, Uruk from Sumerian, right? And then it talks about Babel. So these people are referenced in the Bible, and the fact that they have similar stories that don't match up, that's irrelevant. The word of mouth changes. That doesn't mean nothing. The fact they have the stories is the interesting part. These people all knew that there was a global flood. They understood it.
Hold on. Because now you have it backwards. The flood of the Babylonians, the flood of Upnapishtim, that is 1,000 years before the Bible. The people who wrote the Bible only could hear about the stories. So it's more likely the other way around, that the story of the flood of Upnapishtim in the Epic of Gilgamesh influenced, and you get a lot of studies like in comparative mythology and the Tower of Babel. They say that they found a ziggurat, which was a type of religious building that they would make in that area. But the idea that they would build a tower so high and that there was only one language at that time, we know how languages evolve. We can see languages evolving today. Right. And none of that makes any sense. So you appealing to the Tower of Babel as a sort of piece of evidence to confirm the flood, that makes no sense.
I do need to jump in. I know you can predict that, and you know. So just to remind that we're not disputing. Of course, it's relevant to bring up. Other flood stories that may have been talked about, but specifically we do want to focus on, could Noah's Ark have worked? So that's the title of the debate tonight. So I am going to close the poll. We're just a little over halfway into our debate, and I want to remind everybody to hit that like button if you haven't already. And we are going to move into super chats probably within about a half hour or 40 minutes or so, depending on how the speakers are feeling. So let's close the poll. Could Noah's Ark work? 24% of our audience said yes, 71% said no, and then 5% is on the fence. So we will open that poll back up at the end of the debate, and it looks like we get 277 votes, so I'd like to see at least that many likes, guys. Come on, let's smash it. All right, let's carry on, guys, and I'm going to put it over to you, Evidence of God, just to try to put a bow on everything that we've talked about so far, and then let's push a little bit more back into the Bible and Scripture related to specifically Noah's Ark.
All right.
Sure. So, to reference what you said there, Moses wrote the story. So the fact that it was 1,000 years later or whenever it was is irrelevant, because Moses wrote the story that predated himself. He was getting a vision and he wrote the story down. So it's really irrelevant who had the story first. The point is they're referencing a global flood. But the proof that Moses's book is accurate compared to the other books is the fact all the scientific accuracies that we find in the Bible. Let me give you an example of one. So a lot of people wonder what a biblical kind is. Okay, so in the Bible, yes. So in the Bible, Noah didn't eat meat at the time, nor did the animals. So according to the Bible, clean and unclean animals are in reference to consumption. But Noah didn't consume animals. So you have to ask yourself, what was a clean and unclean animal? Now, this is where it gets interesting. So the clean animals were brought on the boat by sevens. The unclean were brought on the boat by twos, right? If you look at if you think about it from a domesticated animals, right? We have cows, chickens, horses, dogs, right? These kind of sheep, right? So you look at these animals, they all have 7 blood types, or just over 7 blood types. But if you look at all the unclean animals, they all have 2 blood types. So if you take the AB blood types, yeah, it's wild. If you take the AB blood types, or the A and the B, you can reduce them down to AB blood types. So every unclean animal that we can observe can be reduced to 2 blood types. Every clean animal is domesticated can be reduced, is 7 or above blood types. And the best part, hold on, just let me send this home. The best part was how many blood types do humans have? They have 8. How many people were on the boat? Right? So the Bible is
just to be fair.
The Bible is explaining blood types. So you explain to me why the clean animals, the domesticated animals, all have over 7 blood types. The unclean animals all have roughly 2, or have 2 blood types that can be reduced to 2, and the humans have 8 blood types. And all these numbers are exactly right on the boat that we see. So you explain to me how they got that right.
All right.
Because first of all, you said clean animals, and am I supposed to take it that clean animals are the domesticated animals?
The ones around humans, they would have been, because they didn't eat them. Yeah. So what else could they be?
I mean, I don't know. I have no idea what a clean animal is.
Well, according to the Bible, it's animals that were eaten, but Noah didn't eat animals. So you have to ask, what would they call clean animals? Well, probably the ones that were around them are the clean animals, right? And the ones that weren't.
So more conjecture. Now,
it's not conjecture. Types,
yeah, it is.
It's not conjecture.
We got to let Max
tell
respond.
me what a clean animal was then.
I have no idea.
You're putting the burden of proof on you. You're saying, no, I don't. That's not true. But you won't explain how. I just gave you the burden. I just explained it to you. So you You just get to wave it off and be like,
yeah, because you're just inventing stuff. Just because there are 8 kinds of blood types. I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure. And I don't know what the consensus is on why humans have X kind of blood types. And I mean, I honestly don't care. What you're doing here is basically another reification fallacy, just because coincidentally there's these numbers that match. But let me ask you this. Now that you brought Noah's sons, how do you explain away the inbreeding problem?
Yeah, no, when Noah's sons, they had the purest form of the genetics. It's like the Y chromosome. The Y chromosome deteriorates with time. Well, you can look at the genetics the same. Can you take the first human? Let me give you an example, okay? So in evolutionary theory, when the chromosomes changed, the only possible way that a 23-pair chromosome male and a 23-pair chromosome female could have fused those chromosomes is if they bred siblings. It's the only, and that's still unlikely. But what? So from evolutionary theory, they had to breed siblings. The only difference is in the Bible, it says that the bodies were designed perfect in the beginning, right? They were designed perfect, so they were pure. And like the Y chromosome, we watch deteriorate. It's the same idea with the genetics. So yes, today if we inbreed, there's problems. But if you go back to the start of the pure genetics, inbreeding wouldn't have been a problem. And it's not a problem from evolutionary theory either, because you would have had to have breed with your siblings. This is the only possible explanation.
No, inbreeding even happens if you breed with your cousin. So to an
extent, yeah.
Yeah, but you're digging yourself deeper into a hole. You just hand-waved away. You said pure DNA, and I don't know what you mean about the deterioration. Hold on. I don't know what you mean about the deterioration of the Y chromosome. That doesn't sound correct, because the problem is not in there's not a Y chromosomes. Chromosomes are a different thing. How many pairs of chromosomes do humans have?
23 and 23.
23. Okay.
No, 23 and 23. 23 from their mom, 23 from their dad. The
No,
23rd from the male is a
no,
Y or an X, and the
no.
females
Hold
is an
on,
X.
hold on. No. Humans have 23 pairs of chromosomes. They get half of those from each of their pairs. They don't get 23 pairs from each because that would make them 46 pairs.
Yes, it's 46 chromosomes in a human. That's
no, it's 23 pairs, but you get half from each of your parents.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But again, just saying that they have pure DNA, the Bible doesn't say anything about that, because these people didn't know about the people who wrote the Bible, who coincidentally, just to mention it up, you're talking about Moses. Moses didn't exist, so you have another problem there. When you invoke Moses, you would have to prove to me that Moses
Conjecture.
existed, and good luck with that.
Conjecture.
It's not conjecture. You say that Moses was a real dude. You have the burden of proof. I'm challenging your claim that Moses was real. Well, but that's neither here nor there. Hold on. Let me round up this point. By the time of Noah, how many generations of people have passed?
I'm sorry. By the time of Noah, how many generations of people had passed?
Yes.
I don't know.
Because the only one with pure, even if I grant you for a second that Adam and Eve were real, the only ones with pure DNA were Adam and Eve. So as soon as you start, and then we get to the problem of how did they populate the world when they had pure DNA, but their kids didn't, and their kids forcefully had to inbreed. So I don't know. This is really weird. It's all about you have to invoke magic, and you're trying not to do that, but at the same time you're covertly doing that, which is extremely interesting and weird.
It's not invoking magic. We can observe things like the Y chromosomes deteriorate over time. That means they're getting worse the more we breed. Every time a son is born,
do you have a citation?
Yes, eventually the Y chromosome is going to die out. That's what science says. Eventually it'll be gone. You can look it up. No, I don't have a citation for it, but look it up, man. Like, you didn't even know dude, 46 chromosomes.
If you come on a debate like this saying that you have evidence, maybe try to bring the evidence. Don't tell me look it up, because so far all you've done is tell me look it up, and you just made claims. If you wanted to do this kind of debate, maybe have the citations handy so that we can take a look at it and see what you're referring to, because so far you've given me nothing. You've just given me homework, and I don't know, this all seems very far-fetched. And the one thing I can tell you, the one thing that I do know that you did mention, that this ancient, and I'm trying to think the name of this 3 billion. I knew the name and I can't bring it up for some reason. This 3 billion year old flood, and you're reifying that to mean that there was a flood. So if you're going to do this kind of thing, maybe have the citations ready so I don't have to do homework, because so far I still can't believe you anything. You say stuff and I have no evidence for it. So this leaves us nowhere.
Okay, so this is from nature.com. It's an article. You can find so many of these. It says the human X and Y chromosomes evolved from a pair of autosomes approximately 180 million years ago. Despite their shared evolutionary origin, extensive genetic decay has resulted in the human Y chromosome losing 98% of its ancestral genes. Right? So like I didn't bring citations, right? But you can look this stuff up. Like, this is common sense. Everybody knows that the Y chromosome deteriorates. I don't think I've ever met anybody that didn't know that. But you bring
that's a claim.
It is, but it's serious. Well, now you know, right? At least. So the Y chromosome. I didn't mean to be ignorant. I apologize. But now you know that the Y chromosome does deteriorate.
Send me the link in the chat, because so far you read what you read. It said that it lost its ancestral DNA. It doesn't say anything about it. I don't know what's the word you're using, decaying or something. It doesn't say that.
I think it did say decay, exactly, didn't it?
in what you read, it didn't say decay.
So this is from
Send me the link here.
Nature.com. Within the last 166 million years, the human Y chromosome has lost most of its 160 genes at the rate of nearly 10 per million years. At this pace, the Y chromosome is expected to vanish in about 4.5 million years.
In 4.5 million years. Okay.
Oh,
can you give me the link in the site in the chat over Zoom so I can take a look at it?
Do you think I'm just making this stuff up? I'm on my phone, but if somebody wants to link something like that in the chat, then that's fine. But I'm not on my computer.
If you just looked it up, why can't you send it to me?
Because I'm not on my computer. I'd be happy to send it to you by email. I'll send anything you want by email after this. If somebody wants to link it in the chat,
sure. Yes, I want all the evidence because that's how this works. And if you're going,
and I'm giving you the evidence, you just don't. You're afraid of the evidence, my friend. That's why you're just running from it. You're saying it doesn't exist.
Dude, relax. I'm not afraid of anything.
You are. You're afraid of the evidence.
No, I'm not. You're just not giving me the evidence. You're just saying stuff.
I'm reading you articles from scientists, and you're going, no, I don't like it.
Yeah, but you read me a snippet. I'm pretty sure that article doesn't say what you're saying it says.
Okay. Yeah, anyways.
That's the problem. That so far, in my experience, the only evidence that I did know about before, that one, you're just committing a reification fallacy. You're saying that this flood 3.5 million years ago is the flood of Noah, and then you're basically wrong. And this article is talking about millions of years of evolution. You deny that those millions of years exist. So how can you be referring to a paper that's talking about millions of years to fundament your position that it's only 6,000 years? This is insane.
Because it's a pseudoscience. But the point that I was using the point I was making there is that it deteriorates.
Wait. No, stop, time out. If it's pseudoscience, then it's not evidence for your position, guy.
No, deterioration is observable. 100 million years is not. That's the difference. We can observe deterioration of cells. Yes, we can observe millions of years. So you're using a fallacy here by telling me that because I don't believe in the millions of years, well, I can't cite the article. I'm not citing the millions of years. I'm citing the deterioration. But
that is cherry picking, dude. That is literally cherry picking.
Can you concede this at least? Okay. If let's without admitting anything, if I am right, which I'm probably not, right? But if I am right that the Y chromosome is deteriorating to the point that it will go extinct, can you at least concede that if we backtracked it, eventually it would have been a nice, pure Y chromosome? Can you at least concede that? If it's deteriorating, it must have started perfect, right?
No.
It's got to deteriorate from somewhere.
I don't
know how
think
deterioration works?
I don't think that follows.
It does follow. If something deteriorates, then that means it can be backtracked.
I'm not a geneticist. I don't think, and again, I would have to look at what the article says, because you just read me a snippet that fits your narrative. I'm pretty sure that this happens all the time, that when people do specifically that, without giving me the link, I'm pretty sure that the rest of the article debunks what you say, and you can just choose the part about deteriorating because it suits your narrative, and then just discard the part where it talks about millions of years. That is literally cherry picking. So I'm just going to dismiss this evidence, and we can move on to the next thing if you would like to bring something else up.
I was going to say, as much as I don't want to dismiss direct evidence, once again, if we can...
I still haven't got it. That's a problem.
I was just say, if we can try to move into, because we have all kinds of discussions about other meta debates surrounding the topic, but if we can really hone in, like I said, on Scripture and how this whole situation unfolds, just to make sure that we're really on brand here. So I'm going to hand it back over to you, Charles, and give you the floor to steer us back on track here.
Sure. Have you ever heard of Mount St. Helens eruption, Max?
No, but I mean, volcanoes erupt. Yeah, that's a known fact.
Yeah. So during the Mount St. Helens eruption, we saw geological columns laid within hours. We saw mudslides carve rock that mimics the Grand Canyon on a smaller scale. We actually found fossils that were fossilized within I think 9 hours. Right. So these are things that follow the flood. right? The flood says that this is how these things happened. Your secular science says that that's not how they happened, yet Mount St. Helens, and that's where we first started getting into the point that radiometric dating doesn't get dates right, because there was also rocks that we observed molded that were dated completely wrong. So this is part of the falsification process of radiometric dating. But those ideas that the flood proposes happened quickly. The science, sorry, says that it didn't happen quickly, yet Mount St. Helens in 1980 showed us that it can and does happen quickly. So how do you...
That is only volcanic fossilization, and it also happened in that what was it? What's the name of the civilization that was on Pompeii? On Pompeii, you find people like fossilized because of the, but that is not the same. Volcanic fossilization is not the same as regular fossilization. Regular fossilization takes a lot of time.
Yeah, so it could have just been volcanic fossilization that sat in the dirt for a long time. Like, that's the thing. Yours is conjecture. That's all you're saying is oh, no, we've proved it takes a long time with our pseudoscience. That's what you're saying. You don't want to acknowledge that these things happen because it goes against the narrative, so you give excuses for it.
No.
But the fact is we observed these things happen in front of us. So the fact that we still say that the flood couldn't have done it, and you're right, it is volcanic eruptions and mudslides, but the flood would have induced these things. We know a global flood would have induced, because it's a catastrophic event to the whole earth, that the earth is opening up, shooting things. Of course it's going to induce. There's all kinds of water crashing into everything, cutting its way through rock. It's not. This is what a global flood would do. We can observe this with tsunamis cutting rock, mudslides cutting rock. These are things we can observe from floods. So it's not conjecture. It's conjecture to say that it didn't happen. Right? These things are observable truths.
Hold on. Because you're bringing a lot of stuff up. Like, can we do one thing at a time? I have a short attention span. So when regular floods happen, it doesn't necessarily follow that there's a volcanic eruption right after. I don't know, you will have to show me a case where a flood happened which in turn caused a volcanic eruption. I don't know any examples of that. We know that volcanic fossilization happens. We know that mudslide fossilization happens, but that doesn't mean that the Noah's flood was real. I don't know how you connect things this way. I don't know, because if all of the volcanoes on the earth went off at the same time because of a global flood, then everything would have gone extinct, even the people on the boat.
Yeah, but it's all underwater, and it's not saying that they all went off consecutively. But if the earth opens up and water breaks out from the deep, and it's opened up cavities and it's shaking the ground, and there's tsunamis, the waves that we couldn't even fathom are cutting its way across the earth and killing everything, you don't think that some volcanoes would be induced? You don't think that mudslides would be induced? You don't see how those connect?
The story says nothing about that. Then, Ryan, can I share my screen for a second?
Yeah, you're both welcome to share at any time.
All right. So, wait. Share. There we go. Share this one.
All right. You are up and running.
All right. This is modern. This is the Himawari images from an undersea volcanic eruption. So just because you excuse it and say, oh, maybe these volcanoes were flooded, I mean, that doesn't mean like the energy that a volcanic eruption has. It doesn't matter that it's underwater. It doesn't matter. The energy comes out, and the smoke and the ash and the sulfur, I mean, now on top of a global flood, you're piling on massive volcanic eruptions all throughout the world. That would lead to catastrophe. That would lead to total extinction.
So according to the Bible, the waters covered the highest mountain. Mount Everest is what, 22,000? How high is Mount Everest?
8,000 meters. I don't do
8,000 meters. And it says that it was 15 cubits above, so something like an extra additional 30 feet or something like that, above Mount Everest, covered in water. I think that it could handle the volcanic eruptions. This picture here is assuming that it's a volcanic eruption on the Earth, right? And I don't understand how
No,
if
no,
the
no,
volcano
no, no,
if it
wait, wait,
reached the
wait.
surface, it doesn't really make a difference. It still would cool it down on the way, right? Is that what we're talking about?
No, this was an underwater volcanic eruption. It didn't matter. The smoke, the ash, the cloud that we saw it in real time with Himawari, and it came out. It doesn't matter that it is underwater. It's a lot of energy, and it just shoots up. So this doesn't help you.
Well, it doesn't
Lead
do
to a
anything wrong.
bigger
So what?
catastrophe.
So what that it reached the surface? I don't understand what your point is. That
Because
not only do you have to triple, quadruple the amount of water that's on the earth that it has to get through, but on top of that, who cares if it reaches the surface? Like that fits the biblical narrative. The environment changed, everything changed. It pumped carbon into the air. The rainbow was set in a cloud. If you look at rainbow
Wait,
clouds, they're
what?
the Bible says that the rainbow that Noah saw after the flood, right? It says he set his bow in the cloud, right? When you look at rainbow clouds, they're caused by ice crystals that are taken on by nitrogen and different particles that get in the air from things like volcanic eruptions and different metallics and dust
No.
particles. Yes, it induces
No.
ice crystals in the cloud.
Dude,
Go
listen.
ahead, explain.
I live in a country that has zero natural disasters, and I see rainbows. So you saying that
it's different than a rainbow.
That makes no sense.
It's not a rainbow. It's a cloud. It's a cloud rainbow. It's a different thing. It's a different thing. A rainbow is a rainbow. Okay, you see rainbows, right? This is called a cloud rainbow. It's when the clouds are they crystallize with ice and they form these kind of scattered patterns, and it appears that a rainbow is all across the cloud and it goes across the sky. They're very rare to see, and this is how they're induced. They're induced from particles released into the air that cause ice crystallization that makes the cloud appear to be a rainbow, right? And this is a very rare event, and it's what's described in the Bible, and it suits the idea that things were erupting, sending minerals and particles and metallics into the air to cause which also explains the Ice Age. The flood perfectly explains the Ice Age. Secular science can't. It absolutely does. An ice age is created. Yes, an ice age is created when the oceans heat up. The sky, the atmosphere gets thicker from all the water evaporating. It blocks the radiation from the sun, hence making the earth colder. This is how ice ages work, and this is in line with the Bible. This is what the Bible says. There was a whole ton of water. Right?
Hold on. This is another reification fallacy, because the last ice age, the consensus on science was that it was from 100,000 years until 25,000 years ago. So this doesn't fit your narrative again. You have the dates wrong. You can't cite the science and then walk it back because you don't like the ages. You can cite the phenomenon and then walk it back. This is cherry picking, and this is all you've been doing. It's reification fallacies and cherry picking. This doesn't help your case.
Radiometric dating isn't science, my friend.
That's what you say.
No, that's the truth. It can't be falsified. Everybody knows it's not real, but no one will say it, right?
Buddy.
It is true. It can't be tested. It can't be. Sure. Science is tested, observed, repeated. You show me how I can test, observe, and repeat a 1,000,000-year-old rock. When you show me that, I'll buy radiometric dating. If it worked, I'd be like, okay, it works. The Bible's old. I wouldn't change a thing about how. I used to be a creationist evolutionist. Until I looked into evolution. But yes, it didn't make a difference. I used to think that I used to fit the ages into the biblical narrative. So no, it wouldn't make a difference for me if the earth was old. The fact is it's a pseudoscience. It cannot be observed. And the more that I realized this, I became a young earth creationist. But if tomorrow they could prove radiometric dating, which they would never put it to the test, so Lord knows it never will be. No, it hasn't. It can't be observed, tested, or repeated. It cannot be. It's all conjecture, as you would say. It's all speculation. It's all cherry picking. That's everything that radiometric dating is. It's not real.
This is the typical young earth creationist speech, and this shows that you are not scientifically trained. I am not either, but
you're indoctrinated.
I accept Okay, yeah, you too. You're indoctrinated to the Bible.
I'm not indoctrinated. No, I just told you that I would change my mind tomorrow. I'm not in, there's no indoctrination in me. That's how I can observe these things because I'm not indoctrinated. Oh, that doesn't work. That doesn't work. You got to think outside of the box, right? Indoctrination is when you have a narrow view and you only see what you're told. And that's what, if you can't look at radiometric dating and see there's a problem, sir.
Hold on. You keep making claims and like, let me speak for a little bit.
You made claims. You said I was indoctrinated.
You said I was indoctrinated.
You are. So I was defending myself, but you won't. You just say, yeah, I am. So
I didn't say anything. You said I am indoctrinated, and I just pointed out that you're indoctrinated into the Bible. Then we're both in the same standing. The thing is that if the science consensus changes, as it has, and as it probably will in the future, because that is what science does, I am willing to change my mind. I go with the science. And I accept what the scientific consensus is. So if you had the skill and the scientific literacy to debunk in some way radiometric dating, then you should write a paper and everyone will welcome it with open arms. But creationists tend to do the exact same speech and have been doing it for years. And none of them has ever come close to putting a shade of doubt on the radiometric dating that we use. And the one thing, when you say it's unfalsifiable, when we get a sample, it's typically sent to a couple of different labs, and they get matching results because the method works. If they didn't, they would get wildly different results. But radiometric dating works. And again, you should write a paper and claim your Nobel Prize if you could do that. But none of the creationist movement have ever been able to do that. So you just appealing to pseudoscience shows that maybe you're not as knowledgeable as you would like to think on this particular subject of radiometric dating.
Radiometric dating does give different dates, and this is exactly why you can't send samples anonymously to labs. You can't. They need to know where it was from, right? They need all these factors to fill in the blanks. So if you're going to tell me that they don't give different numbers, which they do, right? I don't have the citations, but if you don't know that radiometric dating gives different numbers pretty consistently, and then they have to pick the one that suits the narrative, which they accept that. They go, oh, it gave this number. And then they go, oh, it was corrupted, right? When a sample doesn't suit their narrative, they find this billion-year-old rock, and then there's a hammer in it. Uh-oh. Well, it was corrupted, right? So it is a pseudoscience. They will not falsify it. You say people should write papers about it, but no one will let them falsify it. If someone were to write, like writing paper, I could write a paper very easily. Test, observe, repeat. You can't do any of it. That's not the scientific method, yet they base it on everything. Every single conclusion is based off a flawed technique, and that doesn't bug you. That's really sad, man.
No, it doesn't bug me because you're just making claims. Again, you made the claim of they won't let you send your own samples, and I still have to see the evidence for that. Now I'm taking you at face value that sure, maybe that is true. I haven't looked into it because I've never had the need to send a sample. But if you have that, I mean, for the next debate, maybe try having handy all of those citations that you're bringing up so that you can say, and I will absolutely hold you. I left you my email on the Zoom chat. I'm expecting all of the evidence, and I will go over it on my channel Matters Now, and we will discuss all of the things that you have said, but I'm waiting for all the evidence because you have shown me nothing, and I'm supposed to take you at your word.
I've shown you lots of evidence. See, this is the issue
wait,
hold on, let me explain. This is the issue with secular science, right? The evidence, it all comes down to, oh, well, that's too old. You guys don't look at the logic or the evidence that's available because you have a date attached to it that's ridiculous. And that's where it ends for you. You don't care about evidence. You don't care what obvious is in front of your face because a rock told you that it's 3 billion years old. Therefore, the discussion is over. That is indoctrination, sir. And that is not a good way to conduct science. And radiometric dating is not a valid tool whatsoever. You can't observe it. You can't test it. The burden of proof is on you, not me. I don't claim it works. You claim it works. So you need to show me that it works. And they will not show us that it works.
We gotta let them.
You're going on rants every time you get a chance to speak. It's more of a conversation. Uh,
Because it's
again,
frustrating, right?
yeah, imagine me
A
that
rock
you're
told
going
you.
against you're saying, oh, this is pseudoscience, and yet
It is.
99% of scientists accept the consensus on science. Like
That
this
doesn't
is
mean nothing. That's a fallacy, right? That's a populum fallacy or whatever. You're just appealing to a group of people. That means nothing.
no,
They're
hold
keeping
on.
their jobs. That's it.
Let me explain why it's not an unpopular fallacy. Because they don't accept it because of the amount of people. They accept it because there's people who can actually verify that these things are correct, and they have a method, and you keep citing the scientific method, and what they do is they do it all over, and like, this is insane that you think that they haven't done their due diligence on accepting this method as a correct method to date something. But let's move on from radiometric dating, because I'm not specifically knowledgeable on this, and accepting known science is not a fallacy.
Yeah, I do need to jump in and just let you guys know that based on the time frames we have here, we'll probably move into Q&A in about 7 minutes.
All
Uh,
right.
if you guys have any major points you want to move into, though, we can keep going a little longer. If it's like, okay, we've danced around all these other ideas, but I really want to hammer this one, now would be a good time to hit it. So,
Yes, I want to bring up one more point.
go ahead.
In your opening, you hand wave dismissed bugs and reptiles. Those weren't on the ark, according to you. Is that correct?
They didn't have to be, no. Yeah.
Why?
Because the Bible says everything that has the breath of life, and that dies on land, so lives on land. So everything that can survive in the water didn't have to be on the boat, just like that's why there weren't whales. And
Yeah,
things that don't breathe oxygen, they don't have the breath of life in their nostrils, they didn't need to be on there either. That's what the Bible says. So the
Okay, hold
Bible,
on. No, wait. So reptiles die on Earth, they breathe oxygen, and they have the breath of life. They are alive.
yeah, but
So
they can swim. That's why I said not necessarily.
no,
Perhaps some
not
of
all
them are
of
on.
them. No,
That's why I
no,
just said not necessarily, because a lot of them that can swim wouldn't have had to have been on there. I never
no.
once said the
Again,
reptiles weren't there.
hold on,
I didn't say
hold
that.
on. Because just the fact that an animal can swim doesn't mean that it could swim for 150 days and 3 months after, until the water completely receded, according to the story. So you just got yourself into a problem because, okay, all of it died. And then I gave you the argument of the salt, of the concentration of salt in because whales live in the ocean. Yes, but if you change the concentration of salt in the ocean, all of those fish couldn't have possibly lived, and especially with the amount of water, the salt levels would have dropped to a very low concentration, and these animals need salt water to survive. We know this because if you are going to build an aquarium today, you need to keep the levels of salt correct, or the fish die.
Yeah, there's lots of examples of saltwater animals going into lakes and surviving. They can adapt, and you're right. When you get a fish tank, if you're dealing with these things, you do have to follow the process. But over time, if it was slowly introduced to something, we can observe things like whales end up in lakes. We can observe these things,
Yeah,
right? So
hold on. You said a very key word. You said slowly. The flood happened overnight. This didn't happen slowly. This didn't happen with enough time for them to adapt and to evolve, because you're saying adaptation because you're wanting to shy away from the word. The correct word is evolve. These animals evolve, but this doesn't make your point, because insects, reptiles that cannot swim, parasites. There's a parasite that feeds off the liquid inside the eye. There's another type of parasite that swims up the urethra of other animals. Where were those?
They weren't in a urethra yet, but so the salt contents of the ocean, we don't know what the salt contents were. We don't know how it fluctuated. You're just making conjecture. You're just speculating. You're saying that the earth didn't have salt. It did have salt. It doesn't really matter. We don't understand the contents of the salts, where they were. And a lot, hold on. And a lot of the animals did die, in case you didn't notice, right? A lot of the animals did die. So that's exactly, you're proving my point by saying that.
I'm not.
They did die. A lot of them died.
Hold on. I don't need to know the exact contents of the oceans. What I am saying basically follows that if we have the content of the ocean being X, if you have a massive flood, that content, that concentration of salt in the water would spread to, because all the water in the world would get mixed. That forcefully means that the concentration of salt, no matter what it was initially, the concentration of salt would have dropped. So you have a problem there, because
saltwater and freshwater stay separated. They don't mingle.
No,
yes, they do. There would have been spots potentially that would have stayed.
Absolutely false. They appear to look separate. I live in a place where the river meets the ocean, and from time to time you can see the brown line, the brown water, and you can see almost a line, and then you see the ocean water. The problem is that on that line there is a constant hydrostatic exchange of fresh water going into the salt water. So saying that they stay separate, that is absolutely false, and especially with the violence that is claimed, or that you claim, because the Bible doesn't really say anything about violent storms or anything. But when you have all the water mixing, if you put fresh water and salt water and mix it up, it equalizes. And I'm sorry that you don't like chemistry, but that is how this works.
So often form bodies where the fresh water meets the salt water, creating a distinct separation between the two due to their differences in density. Fresh water being less dense typically floats atop the denser salt. So they could have stayed atop. The creatures, yes, it just said it. See, you're denying chemistry here, my friend.
No,
I just read it to you.
Dude,
they separate themselves. What, because you observe it? That's just conjecture. You're just telling me what you observe. How do I know that's true? Give me a paper.
Dude, you can do this.
You're just making stuff up.
No, I'm not. I just explained it. I just explained it to you that yes, that happens, and the water appears to look separate. But on the line that they meet, there is a constant hydrostatic exchange. Water tends to equalize. If you put fresh water and salt water on the same pot, and on top of that you mix it, the water becomes one homogeneous thing. That's what water does. That's the solution equilibrates, and you get one concentration of salt throughout all the water. And you can, this is an experiment that everyone can go and do right now. If we had more time, if we have gone into this before, I would have done it like live on camera, because this is something everyone can do here. Have a glass of fresh water from the tap, have a glass of salted water, put them in a bowl and mix it, or just leave it there, and the water will eventually turn all salty. That is basic chemistry. And you have to take the loss on that one for bringing this topic up.
So why are lakes and oceans separated? Why can you go to the borderlines and they stay separated? But they don't dilute. You're saying that they mix together. Why do we have lakes? From your perspective, why do lakes exist? If the overwhelming amount of salt water is forcing its way onto those small lakes, but yet it doesn't mix, like according to what I just read, the density.
Lakes form from affluent. So that lake is getting fresh water from rain, it's getting fresh water from springs, it's getting fresh water from smaller creeks and stuff. It doesn't work the other way. It doesn't work. The ocean doesn't feed the lakes. The lakes feed the oceans, and it's not actually lakes, because lakes are pretty much stationary. What you're talking about is rivers, and freshwater rivers feed to the ocean. They don't feed back. So again,
during the flood, there was rain, fresh water. There was water coming from the earth, fresh water. So the overwhelming salt water was being pumped in. Yes, you do. Have you ever drank groundwater before? It's not salt water. The earth is a natural filter. It filters the water. So yes, I do know that. So the fresh water was coming up from the earth and coming down from the earth. There you go. You just proved your own point.
It's the water that comes down from the underground that is evaporated water. The only way that you can get salt out of water is evaporation, because filters don't work on salt.
Yeah, but you're assuming that the water in the earth is salt water, and it's being filtered
No,
out
the
through.
water
Why
in the
would it be
ocean
salt
is salt
water?
water.
Yeah, so the ocean's filled with salt water, but it's being, like you just said, the lakes are being fed fresh water, which helps to stop from the two mixing because of the densities, because it's constantly being fed fresh water. That's what you just said, right? So if the earth is giving fresh water and the sky is giving fresh water, there you go. The densities can stay separated.
No, it does. This is just a fundamental misunderstanding that water doesn't mix. This is crazy. I'm ready to move on to the Q&A because, this is insane.
Okay. Well, thanks for the
All right.
discussion, man. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
Thank
that
you.
was fun.
All right, well, we can move into our super chats and try to prompt some more juicy discussion between these two. But yes, a big round of virtual applause to both of our speakers. Thank you so much once again, Max, for stepping in last minute, and obviously
no problem.
Evidence of God for rejoining the Zoom chat after
Yeah,
I let
thank
you
you.
know. I would be right back to let you know what was going on. So I'm so glad that we were able to get this done. I just put in our live chat, did you smack the like button?
Talking about water, let me get water and I'll be right back.
Do you mind if I grab some? Oh, no, I'll wait for him. Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's okay. If you guys want to grab some water, I'll do a little bit of
You don't mind?
housekeeping.
I'll
It's
be
fine.
right back. So sorry. My mouth is...
No worries. All right. So just put up the live chat. Nope, I won't. I'm a crotch pheasant. Has 41%. I don't know. I just think that's a funny thing to call people. Anyways, so yeah, super happy that you guys tuned in. Our speakers are just having a little step out to get themselves some refreshments. That's totally fine at this time. This is obviously a great time for everybody to hit the like button and get in your super chats. If you haven't gotten your questions in yet, now is the time. Max is here. He's a host over on Matters Now, and Evidence of God has his own podcast and YouTube channel. So they're both going to be linked in the live description there. So check them out if you enjoy what you're hearing. And of course, once again, if you got questions for either of our speakers, get them in now so that we can get them asked. And we're just going to wait for Evidence of God to get back. But Max, how you doing?
Really well, really well. Thank you. First time on MDD. I'm pretty excited. I hope to be more on here if you will have me. I wasn't prepared. I have to admit, I jumped on, but all things considered, I think it was fun. It's really fun to debate, and I like the conversation on Noah's Ark. I wish I could have been more prepared for it, but I don't know. I'm subbing in for Oz. Hope he's doing great. I'm going to send him a message later, see how he's feeling. But thank you, Ryan, and thank Evidence of God. It's been really fun, and I hope I can get another chance to be on here talking about some of the stuff that I do. I do like debating.
Well, this has been a lot of fun for me too, and I will let you know. I've recently gotten a new title. This was a silly joke I told Charles earlier.
Sorry about that.
I've got a new title, right, Charles? I'm a doctor's assistant. I don't know what that's going to do for my salary over here at Modern Day Debate, but James has officially completed his course, and he is
amazing.
Dr. James.
Oh,
wild.
Dr.
Congratulations.
James. Yes. So a big round of virtual applause to the maker and creator of Modern Day Debate. James, we're calling out to you and saying we love you, buddy, and congratulations, Doc. And we can officially say,
that's amazing.
Yeah, what's up, Doc? We can do that, and it's valid. All right, so some more super chats are coming in. Thank you so much, Anonymous, for your super chat. We'll get to that in just 1 second. The first super chat came in from Robin Page. This is going to be, I think, a little discussion, so this will give some time for our live chat to get their super chats in. Robin Page asks, the Ark is impossible from a naval architectural view. Wood is too weak for a hull that size, and without steering mechanisms, rough seas would have capsized it immediately, even if the hull was seaworthy. Thoughts over there, Evidence of God.
Yeah, so I mean that's Possible. It's speculation. It's speculating, and like I read in my opening, you can look it up. I think it was science.org. But there was a group of physics students that did all the math and calculated it, and they know that the boat could stay afloat with the weight that was inside of it, as well as saying that it would have capsized, it would have broke. I mean, you have to assume you know what it was made of, how it was made. Like I went over, there could have been a lot of integrity in the structure with metals and different things that we don't know what he had. So possible, possible it could have broke.
Can I get a reply on that?
Absolutely. I think we'll
I
keep
don't
it
know
here.
how they could have done the math because the story is not clear. It just says a bunch of stuff. It doesn't give exact. So the only thing you can do is speculate. And even with conservative estimates on the amount of animals that they would have forcefully have had to carry on the ark, it still doesn't work. And you say that we have conjecture. You're conjecturing metal. You're conjecturing way more than people who do a conservative analysis. And I am waiting. I will wait for your email with the evidence. My email is in the Zoom side chat, on the Zoom chat. So we'll take a look at the evidence on matters now and see what you have there. Because honestly, I don't believe you.
I'll see if I can find the article. But there were 4 physics students from the University of, was it Lancaster, I think. But that's what they said. But yeah, perhaps it wouldn't have floated. I mean, I'm not going to speculate, and I believe the Bible, and I believe he got through it, and I believe it worked. But I mean, it is what it is, right? Could have, couldn't have. I don't know. We weren't there. So.
All right.
All right. It seems like we are both ready to move on, so we're going to move into the next super chat. So if anybody has any other questions, let us know via the super chat option. If not, you can tag me at Ryan Thy Mod. That would be fine as well. I will put my name in the live chat if we are getting near the end. So Robin Page asks, we used C14 dating to date biblical manuscripts. If C14 dating is not reliable, then no one can say how old or new the Bible manuscripts are.
Sure, fine with that. I mean, it was only a couple thousand years back, and we know, especially from Paul. Paul really quotes the Gospels quite a bit. I'm surprised that more scholars don't look into that. I'm actually working on a video right now that's going to show all the quotes from the Gospel of Luke that Paul has, which Luke studied under Paul. So point is we don't need the dates because there's enough evidence to support the fact that Jesus had the Gospel.
Any thoughts over there, Max?
Yeah, again, this is cherry picking. When it suits their narrative, they will accept it. When it don't, it's pseudoscience. And this is basically what young earth creationism is. It's just science denial or science cherry picking, not fully denial, but science cherry picking. And the one thought that I have is that from my friend Isa, when you put the scientific spin into a text that is meant to be a spiritual guidance and that is meant to give you moral lessons, you are taking away from the text. And this is what, for example, our good friend Nadir does a lot, and I disagree heavily with him on his view that the Quran is somehow scientific. This is exactly that. You're taking away the value of the text. And me, even as an atheist, can recognize that this is not the proper way to go about these texts.
Well, can I reply?
Yeah,
absolutely.
So when I became a Christian almost a decade ago, I told myself, if this is true, then the creator of all things should understand what we don't. So I began my run with science in the Bible. And I think that if the creator of everything did inspire a book, there should be quite a bit of things that are alluding to discoveries that we can observe, test, and repeat.
Hey, send in more super chats. Come on, or send more questions.
All right, I did just put in the live chat there. I'm just going to pin at the top. If you do want to ask a question, you can tag me at Ryan Thy Mod. But if you do want to make sure that your question is asked, you can use the super chat option, and I have no choice. I have to read your question. It's my
Yeah,
hands.
come
My
on.
hands are tied, and I mean, the speaker's hands aren't entirely tied, but I'm gonna say they are because I think these guys would just say, yeah, we'll answer any questions you guys have.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, if you guys got questions, keep them coming in. I just put that in the live chat. I've tagged the message at the top. So we're a little bit ahead, of course, with our streaming service. So they'll catch up in just 1 second. And I will ask another question that came in from Anonymous. That's their YouTube name. Very mysterious. All right. God would never leave evidence because you must believe in him. Every time you use science for your arguments, you hurt your faith. I think we might be able to talk about this for a little bit. And once
Mhm.
again, get your super chats in, and we'll try to ask some more questions or tag me. That's cool. So I'll repeat it again there for you, evidence of God, because I think this is for you. God would never leave evidence because you must believe in him. Every time you use science for your arguments, you hurt your faith.
Yeah, no. Paul says that faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Thomas asked to see the holes in Jesus' hand, and he didn't say you're damned. He said, yes, you believe you've seen. Blessed are they who believe without seeing. So he didn't condemn Thomas. Um, all through the Bible, Paul uses his experiences as evidence to recruit other people. He sought out over 500 witnesses that saw what he saw, likely to ensure he wasn't insane, perhaps. But there's lots of examples throughout the Bible where evidence is accepted. I do believe that if you accept Jesus prior to receiving evidence, that it'll just flood you, and all Christians probably agree with that. But there's nothing wrong with searching evidence to come to conclusions from a biblical perspective.
If I may, this goes back a little bit to the point that I was making before. And yes, Paul says that faith is evidence of things unseen. And you're doing a disservice to the text when you go down these rabbit holes of trying to rationalize the Bible and put it into scientific. The Bible is not, as the Bible, the Quran, the Bhagavad Gita, any of the religious texts, they're not scientific in nature. They're meant to give you a spiritual guidance. So when you try to rationalize them and put them into scientific terms, you're taking value away from those texts. And I don't think that's the proper way. And that comment, that super chat was on point. Thank you to whoever sent it.
Yeah, thank you. I think that I hear this exact statement from so many atheists, and the only thing I conclude is that if I didn't believe in God and I desperately didn't want God to be real, I would hate people bringing evidence to me too. So I don't know why atheists always come back with that. I think the Bible promotes free thinking and evidence. That's why every communist regime tries to get rid of religion first, because it does promote free thought, skepticism, and seeking evidence.
All right. I think we can move on from there. So we got a couple questions coming in the live chat. Thank you everybody for getting involved. Once again, tag Orion Thy Mod if you want to ask a question to the speakers, or you can super chat. Toto Kaka says, "Does he read Evidence of God? Do you read the Bible literally?"
So I do believe that the Bible is the literal inspired word of God. I do take into account that God didn't write it aside from the Ten Commandments. So there, I'm not like I when I read it, I see it as people seeing visions or having revelations and writing down to the best of their ability what they're observing. Just like, for example, when Moses seen the burning bush, was it a ball of energy or was it a burning bush? So when I read the Bible, I take it from a perspective that these people were trying to explain what they saw, and I do believe that the Bible is literal. Yes.
All right. Do you have any thoughts over there, Max?
I think, and I did, we did on Matters Now a debate where I actually debated for the Christian position. And when I prepared for that, I think that the literal interpretation is wrong and the over interpretation is wrong. And like with most things, the most accurate answer is somewhere down the middle. There are things in the Bible that are true. There are some places that were true, some cities that are named and then they're found. But then it goes into a lot of mythology. Adam and Eve never existed. Moses most probably didn't. The Exodus didn't happen. So reading the Bible literally seems kind of wrong. There are some things that are actually, it's basically a historical myth, if you want to put it into a category. And I think that the best way to read the Bible is to take the moral lessons from it. And I don't have a problem with you believing in a God. And I do resent a bit that you say that I don't like the evidence, because I've been asking you this whole debate to give me the evidence. And even though your position was that there is evidence and you didn't come prepared for to give the evidence. And if I were in your position, I would have had all of those links ready to send or to share a screen, because when I came up with something, I shared the screen and I showed the evidence of what I was talking about. So I don't know, it's been weird in that sense that you claim to have evidence, but you didn't bring it up. I'm going to wait for your email and analyze the evidence that you claim you have.
I have to let Charles respond. Go ahead, Charles.
Yeah, I hope that you'll watch this debate back, and every time you hear me say something that you don't believe in, like humans have 46 chromosomes, I hope that you'll look it up, and hopefully
no, you're going to send me the evidence.
See, this is the thing about atheists, right? If you, the burden of proof is on you to prove to me something. I've brought forth my case, and I've brought forth the evidences, right? So if you feel that there's discrepancies, that is on your individual person to go look it up. I've brought a ton of evidence. You just don't know about it. You can't follow.
No, we may have a very different definition of what evidence is, but when you tell me look it up, you're going to make me go and scour the internet. Yeah, when you claim you have something, you give me the link, you give me the evidence. That's not how, it's not on me. And on this debate, you have the positive claim, and you are the one that claims to have evidence that the ark could have possibly happened. You have to give me your evidence. It's not on me to look it up. You can't give me homework because I don't know which link you referenced. And as far as I could see, all you have is basically reification fallacies of evidences. So I need to know exactly what you looked at to figure out how you went wrong. I'm sorry, that's how this works.
Can you tell me what I said that you want evidence for?
Everything that you claim, every claim. No, because you made a bunch of claims, and I have a page of notes here of.
Well, you send me that page of notes.
Oh,
we can't see it.
Your notes.
Send me that page of notes.
Because I am CGI, and this is wide known that I am CGI.
That's
oh, I thought that was a studio. That's pretty good.
Yeah, that is my studio, actually.
Oh. But if you send me that note, Max, I will absolutely 100% send. All you have to do is take a picture of the note and send it to me, and I'll send you all the references.
Sure, I'll do that right now.
Okay,
but
cool.
I don't agree with you giving me homework and saying, "Hey, look it up." No,
all right, you don't want homework. Send me the notes where you feel like I didn't.
Yes, I'm doing it right now.
Okay, all right. I'll be happy to follow up.
We have another super chat that came in, and if anybody in the audience wants to have a priority chat. Or, of course, wants to ensure that their chat is read, because I'm sure I've already missed one or two, make sure you make a super chat, and I can't miss it. It's always in the fan funding. Thank you, everybody who helps with the chat and, of course, contributes to what we do here at Modern Day Debate. So Violentix says, archaeologists found hieroglyphics. It showed 8 people with a rainbow over it, and in the Bible it tells us 8 people survived the flood. Coincidence?
Amen.
Max?
Yes, absolutely coincidence. Like, do you know that these people were Noah and his wife and his sons and their wives? I don't know how you could possibly determine that, but I mean, it sounds a lot like a coincidence. And rainbows are ubiquitous; they happen everywhere. So I don't know how you could possibly make that connection.
I'm like, it's attributed to the story, right? And it's historical. When these historical things show up, it tells us that like when Ron Wyatt's discovery of, I know a lot of people contest it and don't believe it, but it was the same kind of thing, right? They found all these stone huts, and they found a big tombstone with, like, I think the woman was crossed out, so they, right, like, and it had all the 8 people and the ark and the rainbow. And that's the point, is when you can make these connections to the Bible, it is coincidence, yes, but it's also evidence at the same time.
Yeah, but the problem is that the Egyptians were way before the people of the Bible, so I don't know
Yeah,
how
how'd
you
they
can make
know?
that connection.
Because they were
Ryan,
all from the same man. They
can
all
you
had the same
enable
story.
can you enable me to send a file over, because I'm trying to send him the image of the notes that I took, but it's grayed out on the
Oh, you
Zoom.
does he have my email?
No, put the email there in the Zoom chat,
No.
and
Well,
I'll email it to
what I
you.
can do, just so it doesn't pop up on our live stream, because I know you've shared yours already on the live, I'll just connect you guys later
Oh,
Okay,
awesome.
afterwards.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Cool.
much. I appreciate that.
Yeah, let's try to make sure that we yeah
And
let's
people,
go.
come on, send more super chats.
There
We need more questions.
there are more questions that are coming in, and the more that we talk, I feel like this is one of those ones that it's going to have that trickling effect where the more we discuss, the more people are going to go, I have a question. So, you guys feel free. You have all the room to expound on these questions as you'd like, but I do have another one coming in from Chase Hatchett. So, thank you so much for your super chat. What is the definition of evidence? Let's start with
Evidence.
yeah, let's do 30 minutes, I think, or 30 seconds, 30 minutes. Jeez. Ooh.
Long definition.
Before anybody calls me out, geez, bye is what I was going to say. Anyway, so 30 seconds, evidence of God. Oh, sorry. Yeah, evidence of God. What is the definition of evidence?
So evidence is the accumulated ideas or truths to any given topic that help to conclude the truth of the topic. So evidence piles up and evidence concludes things. I know in secular science they say that science doesn't prove or disprove stuff, but then they say that the flood of Noah has been disproven and radiometric dating has been proven, right? So this is kind of a circular argument that we get, but evidence does conclude truth, and science does conclude truths as well through evidence.
All right.
All right. So yeah, I was going to say 30 seconds.
I'm going to try
Max.
to define evidence without using the word evidence. So evidence would be the facts, physical or reasoning, because logic reasoning can be evidence, deductive reasoning and inductive reasoning both can be evidence, that would indicate the potentiality of a hypothesis either being true or false. So lack of evidence is sometimes considered evidence. So when you say that science doesn't prove, that is correct. Science determines grades of degrees of likelihood that something is true. But when we're talking about specifically in science, proof is for maths. Science has evidence for or against a position, and a lot of in the science is has to do with also setting a falsification criteria that if not met, then your hypothesis would be false. So that's, and I'm trying to give the definition off the top of my head. I haven't looked it up, so I hope I did a good job.
That's good. You just nailed radiometric dating to the boards.
No, I didn't.
Did you guys want to discuss, or did you want to move
No,
on to
no, we've gone to radiometric
beat that
dating
horse.
incessantly. Yeah.
Oh no. Okay, before we bust it. All right, let's see here. So I'm just going to check over the fan funding again. I'm going to remind everybody once again to hit the like button. I'm going to close out our poll currently because we have another question from our live chat, and I will let everybody know as I switch over here how we fare in our poll. So this was just one for us here at Modern Day Debate. So did you smack the like button? Did you? So the options: I smacked it till it was tenderized. 40% of you did. 35% said nope, I won't. I'm a crotch pheasant. 17% said no, but I will smack it now. And 6% said I hit the like and I will super chat to grill, which means you're going to grill whichever speaker you either like and you just want to get more out of because you just don't think that they got a chance, or, I mean, let's be honest, you want to grill the speaker that you probably disagree with, right? Nobody grills the speaker they love. All right, so I got another one that I pulled from the live chat. Sammy McBride says, question for EFG: what is your solution to the heat problem?
Yeah, so the main issue with the heat problem is it's assuming that radiometric dating dates work, as well as things like when the Earth was cut open, the plates were moving. They're all underwater, first of all. Second of all, water jet cutting, like I explained, has no heat. That's why they use it. But if I heard one gentleman explain, I thought this was a pretty reasonable conclusion to the heat problem. If you really insist that radiometric dating dates are accurate, when God created the heavens and the earth, he's outside of time. And if he moved at the speed of regarding special relativity, he could have experienced billions of years while the people on earth experienced the short time frames of the day. So if that helps you solve the heat problem, by all means, but I don't believe in radiometric dating, and that's one of the biggest attributes to the supposed heat problem.
So the heat problem has nothing to do with radiometric dating. The heat problem is the proposition that if Pangea split 6,000 years ago, the movement of the continents would generate excess heat. And as I said, I think during my opening, that would basically evaporate every single drop of water on the planet. And it has nothing to do with radiometric dating. It's more of a problem, a reasoning. It's a logical thing that would arise from rapid continental movement. And the fact that it is underwater, it wouldn't matter because water would all heat up and evaporate, so it doesn't solve. And the other claim that you made, that God somehow being outside of space-time, which is one thing, and also moving, that also makes no sense. Because if you're outside of space-time, you have nowhere to move. So that is a nonsensical statement, and it doesn't help your position one bit.
It does. He's outside of space-time. He can do what he wants. That's what I meant. But radioactive decay is the biggest problem with with the heat problem. Hold on, let me respond. No. Radioactive decay is the biggest problem with the supposed heat problem that's been popularized by certain atheist leaders. Yes, it is. And as far as the continents moving through 6,000 years, it's only like what, 2 to I think 6,000 miles is the farthest continent. If you broke that down into years, it's roughly 4 miles per year. Try driving in a circle in a car at 4 miles per year and tell me how devastating that's going to be to the earth. The heat problem's non-existent.
This is a false equivocation fallacy. It has nothing to do with radiometric dating. It's only about the drift of the continents. And it's a false equivocation because a car is not comparable to the sheer mass of a continent. So yeah, it still doesn't help your case.
It's not a false equivocation because it's merely 4 miles per year. That's not moving.
But it's a giant thing. Not
when we see the ocean stretch, right, it doesn't cause devastation. They move like what, a few inches, I think 7-8 inches or something like that. We don't see massive devastations. So if the earth was moving, and the plates were muddy as well, because the whole ground was soaked. If the Bible is true, then water was coming in and out of the earth, which is going to lubricate the plates, first of all. And second of all, 4 miles a year.
No, water doesn't lubricate.
Water would make the plates wet and muddy, and mud is a form of lubrication. Yes, it is.
No, water doesn't lubricate.
You can't slide down a mud hill. Can you slip in
water
mud?
Doesn't lubricate. As anyone who has had sex in the shower would tell you, water doesn't lubricate.
Anyone that slipped down a mud hill knows the water.
No, water doesn't lubricate. I'm sorry. And it doesn't help your problem. And we
It
can
does.
move on
You're
because
denying that
I
mud
just
is slippery.
explained my case
You
thoroughly,
didn't. You
and
use the
he just
analogy of
refuses.
sex to conclude that the mud of the earth doesn't make things slide. You ever heard of a mudslide? Right? It has
Yes,
nothing to do with
that
sex.
is mud sliding. It
I have
doesn't
to
mean
agree.
mud
Exactly.
lubrication.
I have to agree. Why do you have to bring up bad memories, Max? No.
You know what I'm talking
Anyway,
about. I knew
all right.
it.
Sorry.
I
Sorry.
knew
No,
it.
no, 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 no. Anyway, that's a separate thing. Just joking around. All right. We have another super chat, and I love to have fun. So Chase Hatchett says, I'll try to do you some justice here. It says, where did all the poop go? That's an awful lot of poop. I paid $5 to say poop 3 times. Yeah, you did. You sure did. Where did all that poop go?
Yeah, so I think that the animals that would have been on board were relatively young. And a lot of it was probably brought to the top to grow food because it's a great way of growing crops. And the rest of it was discarded into the ocean, likely. And it's possible that there may have been some sort of system that he adapted into the ark that helped do it for him. And I'm not sure, we weren't there. So it comes back to the technologies that he had, right?
Uh, yeah, I don't know. This is a conjecture. You brought it up during the debate. I'm hoping to see some evidence for Noah growing stuff on the ark. This is actually, I've gone into a few of these debates on the MDD Discord, and shameless plug, if you like debating, go and join the MDD Discord. It's a very nice place to have these kinds of debates and more. There's people from all over the world. And it's a good place to practice debating if you want to come here and debate on stage. I've had these debates, and this is the first time ever I've heard about Noah growing plants on the ark. Honestly, first time I've heard it. It seems like a good solution, but then again, we would have to nail down the amount of animals. If you go and look at any zoo and inquire how many employees they have to keep the animals, 8 people working all day to move the poop of 1,000,000 animals. And even if it was baby elephants, have you seen, like, I don't know if you're familiar with like farm animals, but have you seen how much a baby cow poops? It's a lot, and that's why the poop problem, I think, is a very strong evidence against the position of the ark.
Just before you respond there, Evidence of God, we're only going to read super chats going forward. So if you have any questions, you want to put it into a super chat, we will read those. But if not, we have to let our speakers go. Yeah, there you go. That's right. I became a doctor's assistant, Max. Didn't you hear?
Yes, I love that.
Yeah,
That is
that's right.
awesome.
Yeah. We're not cheap. No, I'm just joking around, everybody. Honestly, but we do appreciate it. Evidence of God. Go ahead.
Yeah, okay. So I think the evidence that Noah was most likely growing food is the fact that he had to eat, right? He had to eat, and there's no reason he wouldn't have grown food. He brought seeds, he brought food. And as far as uh the animal's feces, I do think that there was probably a system that he had in place to alleviate the pressure off of 8 people, and it's likely that he had some sort of ventilation system in the boat. And this is proven because there was one window, and the window wasn't open until the ark stopped to let the birds out. So there most definitely would have had to have been a ventilation system so that obviously they didn't suffocate. And I think the evidence for the technologies, again, I think I made my case. We have to explain how the Egyptians did that from the era of Noah. And once we can explain how that technology happened with just chisels and hammers, there's no reason to think Noah didn't have access to these things. That's it.
Are your thoughts on the other side, or do you want to carry on?
No, I already told. I think he had the last, as we usually do. He had the last word on that. So.
No worries. Well, thank you so much for the cordiality. We have another super chat that came in, and thank you so much for everybody who has supported the channel. Violent Tex says, Max, I don't think you really know what God is. They laugh out loud, they say. So go ahead, Max.
Well, duh. I'm an atheist, so I've always been an atheist. I've never been religious. Ever since I've been 5 years old, that I used to go to a kindergarten attached to a Catholic school, and they were talking about God. Even when I was 5, it made no sense. So yeah, I don't know what God is, because the more I study and the more I look at things, it just seems like mythology to me. It just seems like another character in a book. And I don't have a problem with you believing in God if it benefits your life and if you get some spiritual guidance and if it brings you comfort. I don't really have a problem. I do have a problem with people claiming it to be somehow scientific, or when they attempt to legislate other people's lives based on what they believe. So yeah, I may not know what God is. I don't really care because I don't believe in God.
Good answer.
All right. I think as I scroll through our live chat here, we may be, don't quote me, fellas, we may be at the end of our debate here.
All right.
And we have gone for 2 hours. Max came in last minute. So, and of course, Evidence of God, you came back later than we had planned. So, honestly, I think what we should do is we should move into our closing statements. If anybody has any really great questions they want to get in, and make sure that they're pertinent, you want to get them in now. But if not, we're going to go into our closing statements. I will give each speaker a minute on the floor to not only wrap up what they thought of tonight's discussion, where can we find you, and also what other debate topics would you like to do in the future. So, Max, 1 minute on the floor.
All right, I am Max. I'm host at Matters Now. We do pre-shows and after-shows for the debate here on MDD, and I think that today I made my case fairly, for being unprepared, I think I've made my case fairly clear. And I don't think that the Noah's flood story is literal. I think it's more of a lesson. I'm really not sure what the lesson is. I don't know if I necessarily agree with the lesson, but you can take some moral lessons from it, undoubtedly. And I think that viewing the Bible as a scientific book is a mistake. And join us in the after show at Matters Now. We'll start right after the debate is done. Thank you so much. And thank you, Evidence of God, for agreeing to debate with someone who impromptu jumped in to save the debate tonight. Thank you so much.
Well, I do want to remind everybody, there are so many times that I have thanked you, Max, for being in our live chat, keeping things friendly, because you are also a moderator at Modern Day Debate. We do take on anybody who wants to be a moderator. We don't care, what your background is, what you believe in. If you want to help out the channel and you're friendly, we want to hear from you, because we do need help, of course. Any channel does, so let us know. But Max, thank you so much for everything that you do for the channel, and we have another super chat coming in, so let's ask that question with
All
Max's closing statement in mind. Why are we framing a discussion about a supernatural event in scientific terms? God could have easily placed all the animals in a hibernation state. Over to you, Evidence of God.
Yeah, so I think the miracle that we see through the Bible is that God is so in touch with his creation, and he's so brilliant and beyond all of us that he doesn't need to invoke that. He's able to use his creation the way he wants to use it and set things up so that they're in a line perfectly for when things need to happen. I think that's the biggest miracle of the Bible, and that's why I absolutely love finding these things in the Bible, because it truly I'm not trying to do it to upset you, Max. To me, it's very fun, and I find it just miraculous how brilliant the creator of the universe is, displayed in this book.
No, none of this upsets me. I may get carried away because I'm passionate when I speak, but none of this is upsetting to me at all. And Wix Builder, congratulations on your first super chat. Thank you for supporting the channel. I think that that is a possibility. God could have done that, but I read the story on the pre-show, and he doesn't say that. So, I mean, could it have happened? Yes. Does the book say anything about that? No, it doesn't. So again, it's conjecture.
All right, let's carry on. And yeah, as you said, MxXD. Thank you so much, Wix Builder, for your first super chat. Hopefully, you have other questions and inquiries going forward for our speakers on Modern Day Debate as we try to deliver more quality content. Chase Hatchet asks, "Too bad the unicorns." That's what unicorns would do. Didn't make the cut on the arc.
They just glued a rhino horn to one of them or something. Maybe that's where the myth came from.
I heard, and I don't know what the extent of it, that the myth of the unicorn came from the first people who saw rhinoceros. So in a sense, if that is true, then the unicorns were absolutely on the ark. Fun thought.
All right, nay. All right, no. I'm just joking. Once again, that's what they would say. All right. Thank you once again, Charles, for being here and coming in extra late. So 1 minute on the floor. Your closing thoughts on our discussion this evening, where everybody can find you, and if you have any other topics you want to debate, let us know.
Yeah, sure. I just want to say thank you so much to Modern Day Debates and Ryan and Max. I appreciate it so much. I apologize if I got a little heated. Max, like you said, it's passion, right? It's no complete respect for you. It was an honor meeting with you, and thank you for jumping into the debate. I really appreciate it. You can find me on YouTube. I have a small channel called Evidence of God, Yahweh Science, where I address different scientific topics as well as a lot of combating what I feel is misinformation out there. I would love to debate something like creation versus atheism regarding evidence. And I would absolutely love to debate evolution versus creationism. Those are the two topics that I'm really passionate about. So I would love that. And again, thanks everyone for having me, and I appreciate it a lot.
Right.
Yeah, I didn't say, Ryan, what topics, but I generally can talk about religion, basically defending atheism. I can make a positive case, which a lot of atheists don't do. And Oscar has helped me a lot in developing an argument on why God couldn't possibly exist, which is a nice change of pace because a lot of atheists don't argue like that. I can argue flat earth for the side of the globe, obviously. And as far as politics go, I can make a case.
I was going to say, apparently you can make a case for drug legalization.
Yes! Oh my God, yes!
As per our pre-discussion.
Yes!
Goodness.
I would love
That's pretty convincing.
I have a complete study already prepared on drug legalization that for a debate on the Modern Day Debate Discord that didn't happen, and I would love to do a drug legalization debate. That would be pretty awesome. So put my name in the ring for that.
Well, that'd be fun, I think. Honestly, yeah, let us know. We do periodic, polls.
I'll shoot you a message with the topic so you have them there.
Yeah, I was going to say we do periodic polls to get a feel for what people are, verging towards as far as debate topics go. We got a lot of election stuff coming up, so these discussions are going to arise. There's going to be a lot of little meta debates going on that are happening around that. We have an election here in Canada. We have election happening in the United States.
In Uruguay too.
So
this year.
Oh. Yeah, wow. So the political discussions must be off the rocker. So we do have another super chat, and I want to let you guys bounce this one back and forth, and then I'm going to close it out. And Vids asks, God is so brilliant that he had to do it all over. Over to you, Evidence of God.
Yeah, so that's the irony of it is God God's plan is so perfect. This was his plan from the beginning, right? It's like Adam and Eve was the original body, and Jesus returned in the resurrected body. The plan was to live forever from the beginning. So all the events that happened were for our benefit, our learning experiences, and to exceed in whatever plan he has for us on this earth, though it seems hard to comprehend at times. But God never made a mistake. He was never wrong. And I know he says things like, why are you naked? Or who told you you're naked? And, regretted making man. But it's just, it's all for the benefit of us. It's to show us that he has compassion and he cares about us. And we make mistakes and he's there for us.
Funny that you bring that up, because the omnipotent God couldn't find Adam and Eve in the garden, so that's doubtful there. Like, where's the omnipotence? Yeah. Whenever it suits you, it's rhetorical. Whenever it suits you, it's literal. So he didn't find Adam and Eve in the garden. He lied to what happened if they ate the fruit. Then he had to do a do-over. He sent for a bunch of people to be genocided in more than one occasion. So I don't think it was exactly according to God's plan. I think he was more of like improvising, but
I must say,
maybe that's just me
Max,
because I'm a filthy atheist.
Are you trying to open a whole can of worms of debate?
Yeah,
topics?
I'm sorry.
I was gonna say
that's fine. You go ahead, Charles. We have
Max,
all the time you guys want to have before we close this out. So let's just.
Oh, sorry. I'll let you close it out.
No.
I'll let you close it. I just wanted
Don't
to
let
say,
me close
Max.
It out. You guys just let yourselves flow as long as you'd like. This is fun, and the audience is enjoying it.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say, Max, you should come check out my channel because I discuss a lot of these topics. I think there's reasons for everything that happened in the Bible, and it's a rhetorical question because God obviously knows; He's all-knowing, so it had to have been rhetorical. But if you go to my channel, you should really check it out.
If I can be perfectly honest, we watched a video of yours on the pre-show, and I couldn't finish it because it was full of straw men and like flat out lies.
Which one?
You cherry picked.
Which
hold
one?
on, let me see. I need to go to my YouTube history. One where you were talking about atheism. Give me just a second.
Oh, atheism is a religion?
Yes,
I stand by that video 1000%.
Yeah, but it was full of lies and straw men. So.
Like what? Like what? What's a lie in a
can of worms. Let's do it.
Yeah, yeah, we can close it out. It's okay.
If you want,
you're invited. Oh, yeah, I don't have time constraints. So, well, for example, you cherry picked Matt Dillahunty saying that he hadn't read the Bible when he was a Baptist preacher. You cherry picked a lot of people saying stuff.
Matt wasn't a narrative. Matt wasn't a Baptist preacher. I watch a lot of Matt, and he doesn't know the Bible. Matt was never a Baptist preacher. He was gonna go and be a Baptist preacher. But no, I've had many discussions with Matt, and if Matt is the standard of somebody that reads the Bible, then the atheists have it tough. He doesn't.
Yeah, well, but you on the video
he knows 10 verses that he uses over and over and over. That's it.
Yeah, but on the video you claim that he hadn't read the Bible, and you claim that atheists don't read the Bible. I have mine here.
You don't read the Bible. Well, tell me something about the Bible that only a Bible reader would know. Who was John the Baptist? Who was John the Baptist according to Jesus?
The guy that baptized Jesus. I mean, yeah. I don't remember it by heart.
I know, right? So that's the difference between somebody who skims through the Bible so that they can find things to incriminate the religion versus somebody who studies the Bible. Every time I ask somebody who studies the Bible that question, to come back Elijah right away. Never fails. But when I ask an atheist or somebody that says they read the Bible that question, it's always the same thing. Oh, he baptized Jesus.
Right.
Because you can Google that.
Hold on. You're judging me that I don't study the Bible the same way as you.
No.
I read it. I didn't find it convincing. I don't have any need to study the Bible because I don't believe in it. To me, it's just another book. Like I read all kinds of other books and all kinds of other myths.
Can I ask you? That's fine. Yeah. I'm not judging you for it, man. You don't have to read the Bible. You don't believe in it. But can I ask you if you were going to have a show where you sat there and mocked Christians and ridiculed them and did whatever that show does? I don't
do that.
I know you don't, but if you did, don't you think you should probably study the Bible? If you're going to spend your days incriminating it and mocking people for believing in it?
Yeah. Maybe, yeah.
right.
But I
So
don't know
that's the
if
issue.
studying, but if he finds objections that people cannot answer, then
But it's the
I don't
same.
know.
It's the same objection. It's the same verses over and over and over. He doesn't read it. As a Bible reader, I know he doesn't read it. So when he said that, and there's also other things that he said. But let's get off the topic. I don't. I know that I don't want to get into that.
That's
But
okay.
I don't feel that that is a wrong talk. That's a lie at all. I've spoke with that gentleman many. He actually hung up on me and banned me after telling me that God is not eternal. He's not invisible. He's not everywhere. He wasn't in the beginning. And then he went on to call me a liar when anyone that reads the Bible knows all those things are true. So he doesn't read the Bible. Let's be real.
All right. Yeah, let's. I do want to read this just because it is in here. Chase Hatchett says, I think they're making a paraphrase here. I screwed these people to teach you a lesson. Thousands of years later. I'm doing you everything I can, Chase. Go ahead there, Evidence.
Yeah, so it's it's a genetic thing, right? The it's like all the genocides and everything. It's sad to say, but if you think of it outside of the box from the perspective of a creator that created everything, genetics are very important, and he sees what's going to happen. So the Earth was in a place where the genetics that were on the Earth would not have allowed God's plan to succeed. Therefore, he had to do what he had to do, no matter how harsh it is, and no matter how sad it is. Really, at the end of the day, if we all have eternal life, is death really death? Is death really that bad? Even though it seems like it's everything to us, in the big picture, it's nothing.
I don't think death is that. I'm not afraid of dying. I live my life. I know I live this life, the one that I know for sure I have. I live this life to the fullest. I try to be a good person because I actively choose to be good, not because I have some fear of eternal damnation. And I see our good friend Christ brings a sword. It's 3 days to the rapture, buddy. We're counting down and nothing will happen. Thank you so much. Come to the after show.
All right.
Yeah, that guy, just to give you some context, Christ brings a sword, a user that's there in the side chat.
Oh, it's a user. Oh, because Jesus said,
Yes.
I've come to bring this sword. That's why I thought you were
Yeah,
mocking
on
him.
Revelation. No, it's a user on the side chat that said that after the eclipse on April 8th, 40 days after the eclipse on April 8th, the rapture will come. So on Matters Now, we're counting down the dates to the until nothing happens, because obviously nothing will happen. So
All right.
it's a little bit of an inside joke.
Yeah, the Bible says no one knows the hour. So
Yeah, exactly.
maybe
Yes.
someday someone will guess it right, though. I mean, who knows?
No
I mean, they've
worries.
been saying that the rapture will come for over 2,000 years, and it still hasn't come. I wonder at what point will they give up?
So
Well,
I just closed the poll. Just told you
All
that
right.
there. At what point will they give up? Well, we will just hold on for 1 second.
should be a debate.
I just closed the poll. So thank you everybody who contributed to the poll. There's 163 votes in the poll. Make sure that you hit the like button if you contributed to the poll. What's wrong with your thumbs? Can you not hit like as well? No, it's fine. I'm just picking on you guys. All right, so could Noah's Ark have worked? No is now at 66%.
Oh, we lowered.
That is a 4% decrease. Yes is if I
Team
think
Jesus.
if I remember straight, you can correct me, Max. There, yes is at 26%, and still undecided is at 6%. But we did have less votes, so take that for what you will. We had 163 votes in the second poll, and in the first poll we had 240 odd. Yeah, so take that for what you will. It's all about who's watching and who's engaging right now with the topic. So we just do that for fun to keep everybody engaged. If you haven't hit the like button, do so already. Everybody's had their closing statement. So I think all there is to do is to say thank you, Max. Thank you, Charles.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you, Max.
And thank
Thanks,
you, Evans.
Yeah, thanks, Max. Appreciate it.
Yes, and yeah, you can let me know in the live chat if you would have preferred some chill music or aggressive music, but I'm just gonna give you whatever the hell I feel like. That's oh no, I told you, Charles.
He did it.
I said one. I let one slip. All right, all right.
No,
It was
as
on the
a
mild.
DJ, I would never dare to tell anyone else what music to play.
No, it was about me.
The
Me.
cuss.
Yeah, yeah. I have. Yeah. Happy language. All right. Cheers. Cheers, everybody from the Canadian. Have a great night.
Okay, see you guys.
All right.
No matter what you think of me, it's only half of what I am. I'm the greatest, I'll set you free to stand, and I won't give a damn. I expect complete conformity, or I'll cast you aside. I spit upon your decency and swallow up your pride. Everything to you, hear my call out to war. The fake news says now I'm a god who lives forevermore. out to do but tear away when I'm boiling at the top. Try to find a way to fight the fires, mount a rap from the minds of liars, and call the shots as you bow your heads, and the marching never stops. The stars could be free, but this insanity bends you right by the knee. Running in circles now for something that can't be found. And I bet as you hit the wall, the rain starts to fall. You can run away, sing a tune that's true. I'll be beside you. Blood, regrets of laughter. Turn around as your heart beat faster. You hollow shape as the faith begins to drop. Shelter can find your thoughts of suicide. It's hanging down by the fray. Oh, running in circles now for something that can't be found. And there's no time for the day. You prayed away. The world would be untrue. I will rise against you. Circles now for something that can't be found. Out of breath, smashed the wall. The water consumed all. You prayed away that the world would be untrue as it rose against you. Did you think it would always be for free? Now sit back, watch it burn, burn, burn for all eternity.